All right, everyone, it's Monday, August 17, 2026, 10 p.m. Central Time here in Champaign, Illinois. You're watching Co-op for Two. You're joining me for the fourth session, playing through a case for New York Noir, The Collector Trilogy Part 3, The Actress. We've made it through 2 of 5 game days here. This is a case written by Anna, a viewer of the channel. There is no other place to watch a playthrough of this, but you can go download the full set of Anna's trilogy and play it on the New York Noir website. You shouldn't be watching this stream if you haven't watched the previous, 3 to 6 previous streams. It won't make any sense. You'll spoil it for yourself. But if you are among the handful of people who are watching us play through this live or watching it in the years that follow, welcome. Let's check in with the chat. Amados Rose says, Anna, I'm loving your case. So Anna, the author, is here with us today. Anna often joins us for playthroughs. And she's joining us to watch us playtest her case. And there's something really enjoyable. Oh, well, look, I'm loving this case. All of the cases we've played for New York Noir, I can't tell you how lucky I feel to have encountered such wonderful writers. We're all amateur writers. We're all trying to find our way, and we're experimenting with this genre. And it's been remarkable to see the different viewers of this channel who are writing cases all explore sort of different techniques, different styles, different vibes, different voices. And one of the things we're doing is trying to provide some constructive criticism, not just back to Anna on playing her case, but talking out loud, talking to ourselves about what works, what doesn't, where one can get slipped up. What's the most satisfying? What makes a case fun and interesting? And I was telling Anna that this playthrough has really brought up a number of issues that feel like they're interesting to discuss. So, before we get back into it, however, let's do a little bit of bookkeeping. On this coming Saturday, I've scheduled a New York Noir design diary update. So if you're interested in the New York Noir game, the updates to the back end, the server, the people involved, I hope you'll tune in on Saturday. I think I've scheduled it for 1 p.m. Central Standard Time. 1 p.m. Central Time. Forget this. I've been told to stop saying Central Standard Time. Central Daylight Time, Standard Time, I can't keep track. So I'm just going to stop saying that. Just watch the YouTube. Sign up to the YouTube, get notified. It will tell you when the video is. Why are we trying to convert? This is like the AIs. Let the AIs worry about it. Don't try to figure out convert your time zone. It's too hard. Just have the AI remind you when it's time. And then as far as finishing this case, it's taken us 3 sessions, well, 2.5, 2 long sessions, 1 short session to play through 2 days of the case, but maybe we're getting faster. Maybe the last day will be faster. I don't know. But probably we're looking at least 3 more sessions. And then the question is, what days do we play those? And I think it's nice to have a little bit of break. So what I'm hoping is Monday, Tuesday, tonight, tomorrow, long sessions. And then we'll figure out whether we should have a session on Wednesday, like Wednesday, Thursday, that might work. Or maybe we take off Wednesday and do Thursday, Friday. Or maybe we're going to have to do Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We'll have to play it by ear a little bit. And hopefully Anna will be here for all of that. I know that it would be good to at least have the last session be at a time that's convenient for everyone. And we're going to need some time at the end of that to talk about the case, go through our notes of what the highlights, the point, the suggestions, the constructive criticism. If you are joining along, or even if you're watching this after the fact, maybe take some notes so that you can share them when you finish watching, either live or as a comment, about the parts you liked best, the parts that you thought didn't quite work, what could use some tweaks, suggestions, etc. We've already got a whole bunch. I've already got my notes. And then Anna has said that she started to write a new case, a scary case for our Halloween October marathon. And as a reminder, in October, we like to do lots of live streams focused on scary, spooky games. And we have a whole big giant queue of potential games. If you're interested in helping decide what games we play, there is a Board Game Geek Guild for this channel. That just means a special forum on Board Game Geek. You can find a link to that in this video. And you'll also find a link to the Discord. So, getting back to our case, the actress, Anna says that when we finished the questions at the end of day 2, we got our score. I've recorded our score, and we got ourselves some bonuses. And Anna says, we really didn't deserve one of them. We were missing a tag that we thought we had, and that was N, the N tag, which was talking to the original waitress. And sometimes I would be willing to fudge that, but given the fact that I sort of wrote her off as innocent, and she actually was paid off to not show up at work, I do think it's reasonable to penalize ourselves. So we don't get the thoroughness bonus. And we don't get the 2 reputation bonus that we got for having all of those markers at the end of the day. That's unfortunate. That's going to reduce our score a little bit. So at the end of day 2, this is day 1. And then this is our day 2. At the end of day 2, we faced some questions preparing our report. We actually didn't file it with the chief. We just went over it with the rookie Lucas, and we wrapped up our solution of the collector case. Pretty odd on day 2 that we've wrapped up the case that makes up the name of this whole trilogy, but we feel very good about it. We identified the collector, the motive, the approach. We identified the persons hired to do the job, how they got in, what name they're operating under, their real name, Matilda Forlova and Elizabeth Frances Perry. I just remember those off the top of my head because it's been such a memorable case. So we've identified everyone. We've got a plan to catch them at this dinner. It feels like we've put a nice bow on that whole thing. And we got a pretty good score. Now, regarding our situation with Georgia Price, the movie actress turned Broadway actress that no one really likes, the narcissist cocaine addict who's staged a kidnapping of herself. Seems like this is a very trivial case. It's a fake publicity stunt kidnapping. And at the very end of yesterday's session, we traced her path down to a subway where she bribed a bum to deliver the ransom notes, so she could be hiding anywhere, but we thought maybe she went to Greenwich Village to stay with a friend Benji. But it feels like we basically have wrapped this up to be a case that the police really don't need to be much further involved with. It's not a big deal. So it seems, but that's the end of day 2. We got 3 more days of this case, so somehow something is going to happen. When we did go to the subway station looking for Georgia Price, we were told that the thing to do is to get the squad, a little bit of a police procedural vibe, get the squad to check the other stations, try to identify where she got off. That will give us some clue to where she's staying. We know she took a map of New York, of Manhattan, with her today, so she could have been going anywhere. However, we were sort of delayed dealing with Georgia Price. We were treading water for most of day 1 finding her, and we never found the subway. So by the time we got the subway at the end of day 2, it was already evening and time to end our day. So we never actually went to the precinct to find out. We never actually had deployed the people to find out where she got off. So we're a little bit behind schedule on Georgia Price, and I'm hoping that we're not going to get in trouble with the chief for delaying that. I mean, it seems like we could make a pretty good case. Like, I know you told us to worry about Georgia Price, but really it's a fake kidnapping, so there's no rush on that. But we have solved this Edgar Allan Poe robbery, which is real. So I hope the chief's going to be understanding, and we're going to kick off day 3 in a moment. Anything else I've forgotten? And as modified question set 2, so when we get to that, we'll use the laptop to read the most recent version. And we do have our leads that we want to check out so we don't forget to do anything. We've got a trip to the Daily News we want to make, a couple other, maybe a horse racing club. We'll see. And then perhaps last thing to mention a little bit, I can see Jonathan Warner's here in the channel. I've moved over the blinking light so it's not blocked by my laptop. So if you could trigger the blinking light just for me to make sure it's working, and if I don't see it, feel free to alert me again. All right, day 3. Let's read the introduction. I'm very excited to see. I have no idea how this case is going to get deeper. Feels like we wrapped it up. Okay, yes, I see the light. That's good. All right, so if there's nothing else that I haven't talked about, recap. YouTube says we've got 13 viewers here, which means we've got the 3 people who are playing along with me, the 4 people playing along with me, Anna, and then 6 or 7 insomnia sufferers. Day 3, Saturday, January 19th. You can follow leads until 12 p.m. today. Then you need to give your report to the chief about Georgia Price. In the afternoon, you can watch the movie of Human Bondage if you feel like it. Then attend the Poe dinner at 7 p.m. And then we've got questions part 2. Okay, quite lovely. We've got a short day till noon, then we have to deliver our report. So we get a couple extra hours. That's good. That's good. That gives us time to follow up on the subway canvassing. And then we've got some spare time. Maybe we're going to go see this movie that Lucas is curious about. And then we're going to attend the dinner. We're going to attend the Poe dinner. That's great. And then, yeah, okay. It's pretty fun. So Anna is really embracing the timed event stuff, which is one of the things that makes New York Noir different from Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective. So in our daily log sheet for day 3, which is a Saturday, and we're at January 19th, 1935. Okay, so we want to note that at 12 p.m., visit chief for questions. It sounds like we have to solve the Georgia Price. I wonder if that means we're going to have to find her. Maybe not. And then we're going to want to see the movie, which can be maybe any time between 1 and the dinner at 7. Let's just say 1 to 6 p.m. And then 7 p.m. we have our Poe dinner and try to catch the collector and the con artist. Yes, we're going to go follow up that subway lead at Greenwich Village, which is where the chief is too, but we're not going to talk to him yet. We'll just make sure he's not walking around the hallway when we come in. Anna says there's an errata. After 12 p.m., you can follow a max of 4 overtime leads. So you're saying between 12 and the dinner, we can only follow. You're basically saying it's not that we have between noon and 7 to do whatever we want. You're saying at noon we give the report, and then we've got a couple extra leads we can take, and then we're supposed to jump till 7 p.m. Is that right? So we'll just say movie plus 4 leads only. I believe that's what Anna is saying, that we don't really have the time between noon and 7 to follow leads. We're allowed to do a couple leads considering that we're in overtime. And then this is a stop. Okay, so here we are. So 9 a.m. We're starting our day at 9 a.m. Then we're supposed to stop after our visit with the chief at noon. Before you go to questions, you can follow overtime leads. The movie after questions. Okay, I'm not getting it. The movie is after the questions. That's fine. I get that, but I don't get the 4 overtime leads. At 12, we're supposed to visit the chief. Are you saying we don't have to visit the chief at 12? We can do extra leads? I don't understand that. Why not just say we visit the chief at, oh, because it's punishment? Okay. So you have to clarify whether you're saying we have to visit the chief at 12 or we get 4 more bonus leads. And what are you saying about after we visit the chief? Do we have all that time before 7 that we can do whatever we want? Or are we supposed to just jump from noon to 7 p.m. after the movies? Either way, while you're answering that, I'm going to look for our list of leads that we haven't followed up. We haven't gone back to birth and death certificates. There's our movie. There's our daily news contact. This is a question about who sent the letter to the paper. We don't understand yet. These are just our notes on people. Benji Miller. Ransom notes. Ada Bossi notes. But we visited all these. Dr. Costello notes. We visited him already. Georgia Price notes. Nothing to do, just our notes about that person. These are our main actors here. We don't have anything else to go to with them. I was a little bit curious about Vernon Taylor. Like, I thought he might be the person writing to the paper. So I thought maybe we'd talk to him. I wonder if we need to start developing a note-taking system that tells me when there's stuff to do on a page of notes. Like, these are all to-dos, and this is a to-do, but these are not. These are just our notes to refer to. Let me just go through the rest of our notes here. Georgia Price, just notes. This was the law firm, but we do have a return on that. Okay. These are our theories of Georgia Price might be visiting her mother in the sanatorium or hiding out in Brooklyn. Stanley Street. I can't remember if we talked to him. More Georgia Price notes about what she was carrying. Her diary. Sylvester Tracy. This is the cheating, lecherous guy. No place more to visit on that. Ada Bossi told us exactly what she was wearing. She's the one that told us about the subway. That was an important lead. She was taking her French lessons. That's where we caught her there. We don't need that card anymore. The theater we visited, we don't need that anymore. Billy Jones at the Daily News, that's in our to-do list. Our notes on the collector. Glasgow Theater, we don't need that. Our notes on what name it could be when we were pinpointing Elizabeth Frances Perry. Various guests of honor, we don't really need that anymore. This is our to-do about Lawson, we don't need that. More notes on the guest list, picking out the collector. A note about the Greenwich Village flower shop, which keeps coming up. I can't remember if we've gone back to it in this case, but maybe that's a to-do item. Notes on the women running the Society of Edgar Allan Poe. We don't think we need to talk to them anymore. Elmer Richards was the person that led us on the trail of Tilly the con woman, which we eventually tracked down and got her real name and already answered those questions. These are my notes, feedback notes. Okay, now let's see if by now, here is our to-do list. Let's try, there's more here. Mark Twain. These are our Mark Twain notes. We've already done all these. I don't think we need these anymore. And this was our notes about the waitress. And the safecracker seems to be a whole totally different job. We've already visited him though. Okay, so I think these are done. I'm going to put the to-do list items together. And I'm going to put the notes list together, and probably we don't need most of these cards, so we may get rid of most of them soon. These we don't need. Yeah, okay. Maybe I'll put these someplace else, these ones. All right, let me check with the chat, see if the question has been answered. At 12 p.m. your day ends, but if you want, you can visit 4 overtime leads before you visit the chief if you're not sure. Time is frozen at that point, but you take 1 demerits per lead as usual. Okay, fine. So at 12 noon, we're supposed to report, and we can take a couple demerits if we need to chase down a couple more leads. Okay, I get it. And it's Saturday. Let's just check if there are any places we know we're supposed to return to on Saturday. We've got a whole bunch of places to go to on Sunday, but I don't think we have any places on Saturday. Although we do have a return with H, which we still haven't gotten. So, looks like it's going to be a fairly straightforward day. The list of places we want to go. The most important is do I have 2 Billy Jones? Yes. The most important is returning to our precinct to follow up on the subway leads. So that's clearly where we want to go first, right? That's clearly where we want to go first. These are in our notes. So let's go to the police precinct, not to talk to the chief, but to follow up on the subway. All right, where is our police precinct? We should know this, you'd think. We're detectives. We know where our home precinct is. We're looking for NYPD precinct. So we could look it up in the yellow pages, but we should be able to find it in NYPD. So here we are, 6th precinct in Greenwich Village, 77336. Which you would think we would write down. 336. Okay, let's set our clock to 9 a.m. start of day. Okay. If you have circled marker H2, go to 20573. Which we do have. That's H2 is specifically what we're doing here. Tracking down, canvassing, not canvassing, having police people go to the other subway stations. Okay. 20573. 30 minutes. It's now 9:30. You find the result of the search on your desk. The subway attendant at Bowery and Delancey saw a pretty lady in a gray coat with a blue scarf on her head. Circle D2. Okay, so that got us D2. Bowery and Delancey. Okay, so we know where she got off. Doesn't say they saw her leaving, but surely. Well, this is Georgia Price. It would be nice if this person said, saw a lady get off, leave the station on Thursday. Or, yeah, Thursday was our day one. So, but actually, she was leaving on Wednesday. So it'd be nice if this guy confirmed he saw her on Wednesday leaving the station. Because if he saw her today coming into the station, that's actually not what we want. So it might be nice if this person told us that he saw her on Wednesday. So let's find where Bowery and Delancey is. Now this is fun. It's always fun to have this variety of procedural work. So Bowery on Delancey. If I told you it's at Bowery and Delancey, I happen to know about where I'm going to find that in the 35 neighborhoods of Manhattan. So I know what neighborhood to go to. But if you're playing and you don't know where these streets are, what would you do? You've got a couple of options. Okay, Jonathan says, I'd try the Bowery. Okay, well, that would be a pretty good guess. There's a neighborhood called the Bowery. You could open up the Bowery and look around that. You could look around the Bowery neighborhood. Where is the Bowery? Well, you look up here and you could see the Bowery is BO, which is right there. So you could look up the Bowery neighborhood, guessing that Bowery Street is probably in the Bowery, and you'd be mostly right. The other thing is you could just, and then once you got there, you could look for streets like the Bowery and Delancey. You could randomly just look around until you found it. You could randomly look around the white pages or the yellow pages till you saw any street, any person on Bowery or Delancey, and then try to look up in the reverse directory. Probably, though, as a general concept, if you know the name of a street, you could go into the white pages to the street guide, 154 at the very end here, 174. You could get up the street guide and you could look up Bowery Street. If you were in New York City, living in New York City, someone would never say Bowery Street, or they might say Bowery Street, but they would probably just say Bowery is the street name. But you could look up Bowery, okay, and then you know it's actually crosses through two neighborhoods, Chinatown and the Bowery. So that would tell you what neighborhood if you got a name. And similarly, Delancey, which is the cross street here, Delancey, you know, crosses through the Bowery, the East Village, and the Lower East Side. So probably what we're looking for now, but not Chinatown. So we know it's going to be in the Bowery. So that would be it. Here's another little tip. Most of Manhattan above 14th Street or so, above 4th Street, let's say, is all numbered and lettered. So most of it. So when you start getting street names and named avenues, it's a fair bet it's in the lower little quadrant, the lower little section of Manhattan, which is all a jumbled mess before they started having the city planning get regular and turn into a grid. So probably just hearing that it's on two named streets rather than 5th Avenue and 125th Street probably means it's down in here where things get messy. But okay, let's try to find it. Bowery and Delancey. I haven't spent too much time in the Bowery for real, but here is the Bowery, the big street that used to be beautiful and then turned into a sort of skid row. So here is Bowery, and now we're just looking for Delancey, and here's Delancey. So there's the subway station. The other thing you could do is you could have just looked up under Yellow Pages for subway stations and just gone through the subway stations until we see the one on Bowery and Delancey. But here it is. Now, assuming that's where she got off, that's a pretty brief report. Maybe we want to talk to the actual station guy who might have seen her and get a little bit more information. So in that case, we could look up the reverse directory for the 30 block of Bowery, or we could do what I was saying before. We could look up subway stations here and get a lead for the actual subway station attendant there. Maybe he can give us a little more information and we can confirm that he saw her getting off. Okay, so Bowery and Delancey is 14638. So let's go talk to that station attendant and get some more details about her. 9:30. I'll keep this map open in case we're going to need to track down her movement. Okay. Okay, so there's no entry in the station. There's no entry for this station in the casebook. Assuming I've written it down right. 14638. Maybe. Oh, there is an entry. Okay, my mistake. My mistake. I can see I probably gave Anna a little heart attack there. If you circled marker D2, which we have, go to 25096. So my colleagues, oh wait, this is us. So my colleagues tell me, half hour has passed, it's now 10. My colleagues tell me you saw the lady we're looking for. Yes, detective, I did. It was shortly before 3 o'clock. I finish at 3, you know, and I remember seeing her not long before I finished for the day. And did you see which direction she went? No, sir. There was another lady asking me about a decent tea shop. I told her there is one right across the street. They have a divine Twining's English breakfast tea. You should try it yourself, detective. Sure, sure. Circle marker Q2. You want to refresh yourself with tea. Another lady asking me about a decent tea shop. We just visited Ada Bossi at the Aromatics tea shop. That's not the same one, right? Because that was in Greenwich Village, I think. So, boy, he doesn't see which one she went to. She's not asking about tea. We are, or this guy's pushing it. I mean, Jonathan says, let's go get the tea. I mean, we don't have that much time to mess around here. You think that's going to be helpful to us? Maybe the woman who was asking about tea ran into this other woman? All right, we're going to go get some tea. I'm not sure this is the right thing to do, but 7 25096, and we're gonna go get some tea. Maybe we'll get some tea and think it over. 74951. I don't think this is a lead for us. I think it's just actually getting some tea to clear our head, but I could be wrong. $30, so it's now 10:30. Our clock is ticking down here. 7497941. I gotta say, Anna has a pretty does a pretty good job of pacing her games. I feel like in all of our cases we felt a little bit pressed for time. The bell jingles cheerily when you enter the cozy little tea shop. This is the Spring Street Tea Shop. You feel so out of place, like a fish out of water. Way out. Like you can't even hear the ocean anymore. How good is that? Everything is frilly here. There are cushions with laces and ribbons on the chairs. The walls covered with rose pattern wallpaper and drawings of kittens. Oh God, is this what your personal hell looks like? You need to leave this place before it's... Can I help you, sir? A young woman with a bright smile appears in front of you, offering you a chair to sit down. It's next to the window. Yeah, it's too late, unless you want to seem like a moron. You take off your hat and surrender. Yeah, all right. Okay, I'd like a cup of tea. You sit down. What kind do you prefer, sir? Black, green, herbal, floral? Floral? What the heck is that? You have, Twining's breakfast? I'd like one of those. Milk? Sugar? Honey? The dame says honey mischievously. Just the tea. She flashes you a smile, then goes to the back of the shop to make the tea. You stare out the window. You can't believe you're sitting here waiting for some flavored hot water. But then something occurs to you. When you stepped inside, you noticed a post office next door. You wonder. When the tea arrives, you take a sip hurriedly and burn your tongue badly. Ugh. It's very nice, you say, with watering eyes. How much do I owe you? But, sir, you should wait a bit. It's too hot. The woman looks at you in horror. Yeah, I noticed. Here, I hope this will cover it. You throw a few banknotes on the table. Banknotes? Notes? For a tea? In 1935? Tea is not costing $2 in 1935. That's going to be like a 25-cent cup of tea. I think he's overpaying, but maybe he doesn't know. Or maybe I don't know. So we take our hat back on the trail again. Circle marker I2. Okay, so it's occurred to Lucas. We already have I2 circled. I'm not sure why that is. I'm going to write down circle I2 again. And I wonder if Anna shouldn't look at that. I'm not sure why there's twice to circle it. It doesn't seem like we got this information before. Okay, so Lucas, it's occurred to Lucas something about the post office. It doesn't really occur to me, though. She's delivered these ransom notes in person via the bum. Why is she going to the post office? I can't think of a reason why she would. So that's a little bit of a disconnect. What is he thinking? I don't know, but he's me, and I don't know. Maybe someone else in the channel thinks they know why a post office might be relevant. Regardless, we're clearly going to go to that post office. We're in Bowery 34. Let's see where the post office is next to us. So we could just look up post office and find the one in the Bowery. It doesn't really have to be next to us. There surely aren't many. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and do that rather than have to deal with the map. Post office. Okay, so there's going to be one in every neighborhood. Let's just look for the one in the Bowery. Here it is. It's on the same block, 10 Spring Street, right down the block. 55820. Guess we can reuse this since it's just temporary. Post office 55820. And it says you shouldn't have circled I2 before. I wonder what happened. I wonder if we circled the wrong thing. I2. Maybe we can find where we circle I2. Let's make a note to ourselves. To self. Sessions 1 through 3. We circled, either we circled I2 wrongly, or it's a bug. So maybe we'll try to find that. I believe that my tool, I see I1 for Pearl. We have I1 also circled. I believe my tool doesn't assign I purposely because it's a letter that looks like a number, but we won't. John says, I don't see I2 in notes. Okay, well, we'll figure it out. We don't really care if we circled it completely by mistake, but what we care is, was there a different thing we were supposed to circle instead of I2, like L2? No, we've already got L2. But anyway. Post office 55820. Okay, let's see what that's about. Maybe Lucas is going to explain to us why he thinks the post office might be relevant. Maybe just ask the mailman if he saw a woman with a blue scarf while delivering mail. That's pretty rare. Okay, 30 minutes, which puts us at 11. There's a lady at the window. You can ask about Miss Price, whether the actress might have posted a letter here yesterday. Yes, there was a very beautiful lady posting a letter yesterday afternoon. She reminded me of someone, but I couldn't really see her face from those big sunglasses. Was it around 3 o'clock? It might have been. I don't remember the time exactly. And where was this letter sent to? To Murray Hill. You remember the address? No, detective. I only look at the district so I can put the letter in the correct basket. I don't read the addresses. That wouldn't be very professional. Circle marker 02. Okay, there's 02. Now, we've got an address she's posting a letter to. Murray Hill. So, Georgia Price. Letter. 3 p.m. This has got to be Friday. To Murray Hill. Now, why is she sending a letter to Murray Hill? And who's in Murray Hill? Not yesterday, but Wednesday. Sorry, Wednesday is what I meant. Yes, we're assuming that that's right. That's fine. Sending a letter to Murray Hill on Wednesday. Why? Who do we know in Murray Hill? Anyone? Is there anyone in our case that's from Murray Hill? I mean, Benji, who he thinks her only friend, lives in Greenwich Village. Her home and her psychiatrist is in Carnegie Mansion. Do you guys need to see where Murray Hill is? I don't know if you know that neighborhood. Let's go learn a little bit about Murray Hill. So Murray Hill is here, you can see. So Greenwich Village is down here somewhere. Carnegie Mansion is up here somewhere. So Murray Hill is sort of in between, in the middle, on the far east. And you can see this little discussion of Murray Hill. Murray Hill is generally considered to cover the area of east of Park Avenue between 42nd and 28th, represents another of Manhattan's storied and eccentric districts whose residents take obvious pride in being considered part of it. It's easy to see why residents are proud of Murray Hill, a picture of genteel elegance and cosmopolitan splendor. An area steeped in history, yet pulsing with the rapid beat of contemporary city life, marked by its brownstone row houses and mansions set behind neat flower beds and wrought iron fences. The area around Park Avenue is particularly prestigious, being interspersed with stately homes on generously wide, tree-lined streets. Along the East River, the neighborhood's industrial sector has its own charm. Bustling shipyard and factories have so far escaped the poor conditions and shady reputation of their sister docks serving the Hudson River on the west side of the island. Then there's a little bit more history, which we won't read. And here's a photograph of Murray Hill. What's in Murray Hill? She's sending a letter. Could she be sending a letter? Could she be sending her letter to her mother in the asylum? Was the horse club in Murray Hill? The horse club? Is there any world in which she's sending a letter to a horse club? Is there any world where she's sending a letter to the horse club? So you're talking about a newspaper. The newspaper, the jockey club's in Carnegie Mansion, where she lives. Are you thinking of another horse club? An ad? Let's take a look at our ads and see. Maybe we should keep our newspapers together. If her husband is in it, he would pick up the letter at the horse club. Wouldn't that seem more risky than sending it to your home? What about sending it to a newspaper? If she's trying to get publicity, could she be sending it to a newspaper in Murray Hill? Any of the newspaper ads. Let's just put some theories here as we're brainstorming. So Jonathan says horse club. I say newspaper. One interesting idea would be, could we go to the local post office in Murray Hill? Is there any chance? But what are they going to say? Like, yeah, we get letters that we deliver. What do you want us to do? Remember what? We don't even, there's nothing special about the letter. So what are we going to get them to tell us? The real more likely case is surely that one of our people lives in Murray Hill, right? That's the most likely situation. That we've overlooked someone and we didn't write down one of our people who is in Murray Hill. That's our most likely scenario, that one of our players lives in Murray Hill. Now, we know most of them live in Greenwich Village. Interesting. Very interesting. Let us take a little scan around Murray Hill. Daily News. Remember that the Daily News had the contact. That's a little tempting. That's a little tempting, especially since we also want to go to the Daily News to talk to the columnist who wrote about her anyway. So surely now we are going to go to the Daily News to see if there's any chance they got a new letter about Georgia Price. Boy, okay, so if that turns out to be cool, it's tricky to use these building labels because, you know, they're just a tiny subset of the places on the map. No reason that a case has to use them, but it's pretty fun if this was our little reminder of where this is. Okay, surely we are going to the Daily News now, which we wanted to go to anyway. And then I'm going to also write Mother Asylum and Other Friend. These are the ideas of where the letter might be going. Jonathan says, I guess the newspaper knew we were involved. How would she know that? No, that my idea is just oh, I see. You're saying it's that leak. I wasn't thinking of it that specifically. I was thinking she may have written a letter that's got other information. It's true that we don't know what this. So Jonathan is saying, look, we do know the Daily News got some leak that we were involved. And Jonathan's saying, but how would she be the one to know that? And I'm just saying more generally, I'm not sure she was the one to leak we were involved, but isn't it likely that she was sending the paper hype information about her kidnapping? So maybe she sent this letter and then the Daily News contacted someone in the police department and that's how they got that information. Like she tipped them off about her kidnapping and then they got subsequent information that we were involved from an internal source, maybe even lying about it. But the idea that she tipped them off to her fake kidnapping is completely realistic. So let's go to the Daily News. I feel very good about this. I don't know, Jonathan, why is Jonathan upset? Why are you obsessed? The police department didn't know. You're saying someone else has to know? Okay. But that doesn't mean she didn't write to the paper telling them about the kidnapping, and then they did their own investigating about who was involved. Doesn't that seem likely? Like, okay, she doesn't know about Lucas, and maybe most of the police don't know about Lucas either. So maybe they've got that information from someone else, but the Dark Tower pub. But that doesn't mean she didn't contact the Daily News. There's the Daily Worker. Daily News, Murray Hill, 70584. I mean, for all we know, she sent another letter. They haven't even... Well, I don't know that they haven't published it, but it still seems very likely that she's the sender of this letter to me. I'm not saying she's the only source for the newspaper, but she may have tipped them off to it. Okay, Daily News. Friday or Saturday, 36261. Two, 6, 1. Unfortunately, this is not going to tell us where she is, even if it's correct. 30 minutes have passed. It's 11:30. There's chaos at the paper's editorial office. The phones are constantly ringing. Everyone's running around with papers and cameras, trying to shout over the constant noise. Hey, Tom, you proofread my latest article? You know, the one with the horses. What are you talking about? I definitely remember putting it on that table. Yes, tomorrow, Mr. Gilbert. No, I'm not mistaken. It's a madhouse. You fight your way to the office with the nameplate Billy Jones on it. The secretary in front of the door is on the phone. She's a very serious-looking young woman with round spectacles. No, we don't have further information about Miss Price's kidnapping. No, ma'am, I'm not trying to withhold important information from you. That's gonna take a while. You knock on the door. Mr. Jones is not in today, says the secretary suddenly when she notices you putting your hand on the handle. I'd like to make sure. And you open the door. The office indeed is empty, but you decide to step inside. Detective Lucas, protests the secretary. It seems she abandoned the phone to run after you. Please leave Mr. Jones's office immediately. How did you know? Oh, right. That cursed article. Well, calm down, Missy. I'm leaving as soon as you tell me where I can find that little, Mr. Jones. You caught yourself before you could say something potentially insulting about her boss. I'm sorry, Detective, I can't help you there. I don't know where Mr. Jones is at the moment. All right, just give me his home address and I'll be out of your hair already. I'm sorry, I don't think I can divulge that information, Detective. Mr. Jones likes to keep his private life private. Not something he could say about other people's private lives, though, right? Never mind, I'll just look him up in the directory. You won't find Mr. Jones in the directory. No one knows his real last name. He made sure of that. You see, Detective, I wouldn't be able to help you even if I wanted to. The little minx's spectacles glitter mockingly at you. That's unfortunate. But before she closes the door after you, you notice something curious on the journalist's desk. Circle document 15, dolls on Billy's desk. And then it says, if you have trouble finding Billy, don't forget to use the hint. Okay. So we went to the Daily News, Billy, and we got document 15. Interesting. Document 15. Okay. So we just happened to notice these on his desk and thought they were peculiar. Jonathan wonders, should we try to track down Billy, or should we be looking for hotels in the Bowery? That's a very good question. So I see two main possibilities. Maybe we'll talk about this a little bit, then we'll take a break. So these are Russian dolls, Russian nesting dolls. I don't know how that's really going to help us much, except that Billy Jones, maybe we can find a place that has Russian nesting dolls and find out if he's a collector. Maybe they know him in his neighborhood. That's a little bit weird. But Jonathan is thinking, okay, well, if we know where she got off from her subway, that's where she's staying. Our theory is she's staying in a hotel because of the comment she made to her husband about, I could be at any hotel, you'll never find me. It would make sense that we would say, as a to-do, check hotels in the Bowery for Georgia. There aren't that many hotels in the Bowery, some very low budget sleazy ones, so maybe there are like one or two really good ones, so that wouldn't be too hard. Anna says, remember you met Billy Jones in case one. That would be one of these things that we need to be reminded of. Met in case one. So maybe in case one, we could reread the daily news lead and see if we learn a little bit more about him. Jonathan is basically saying, though, that we're in a time crunch to find Georgia Price, not Billy Jones. And so unless we think finding Billy Jones is going to key us off, then to Georgia, we shouldn't pursue it. However, so I guess I'd be inclined to look for her in hotels, but this is our one solid lead about her. And you could imagine, could you imagine a world where she's writing to Billy Jones and she's like, meet me at this hotel in the Bowery? Like, could she be telling Billy Jones where she is? That seems unlikely. She's trying to fake the kidnapping. So maybe we can put this off for a bit. Maybe we should focus on Georgia Price rather than tracking down Billy Jones, given that we have limited time. Well, give that some thought. We'll take our first 8-minute break. We'll come back and then decide. I guess I am inclined to go with Jonathan and say Billy Jones is not likely to tell us where she is hiding, and we'd have a much better chance of finding hotels in the Bowery where she might be hiding, or someone who recognized what direction she went. So maybe she got off that subway station. That's another potential clue, right? Of course, she could be staying with a friend. Okay, let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll decide what to do. We're back on the trail of Georgia Price, discussing how to find her. There's no old film studios in the Bowery where she could have worked at early while getting her break, someplace she'd be familiar to get in and hide. Boy, hideout for date. Okay, think about this. She's just got her little bag with her. I don't think she doesn't have a suitcase, so she's not going to be staying in a little room, surely, for many days. I think that points more to a hotel because she doesn't have a suitcase. Or a friend's house. I suppose even a hotel, maybe that reasoning doesn't make sense. I think maybe the most likely way for us to find her might be to check some hotels, but also look over the newspapers briefly for some, like, do they have a second house somewhere? Going to dance, Jockey Club, Morgan Trust. It seems maybe we'd be better off just trying to hit a hotel. I think it might be worth trying to find a couple of hotels in the Bowery. So let's just, or a boarding house, I suppose. We know where she got off the subway, though. It's not in Murray Hill. We're looking at Bowery. I think we should go for the low-hanging fruit. And the low-hanging fruit is asking any hotels in the Bowery that look like they might be higher class whether they've seen her. Okay, I see there's an alert for me. Let me just talk it through before I check the alert telling me not to do it. We know she gets off a subway station here. If you were to check on the subway line, in fact, let me just go to it because it's so rare that I ever show these end pages. Where is my subway map that I have made? Okay, so here's the subway map based on this is real New York City subway map, a little bit tweaked. So I see the alert and I'm going to read it, but we are down, just to show you, we are down here in Lower Manhattan. Where is our Broadway and Delancey Street stop? What subway line is that? It's probably one of these on the east side. Near Spring Street, a little bit below. So anyway, she's gotten off at one of these. It's the BMT. So where is our legend? I'm just taking this moment for us to explore this a little bit. The BMT is the yellow line. So if that's right, she's on this line. She's gotten on there. It's gone down. Anyway, I can't quite see Delancey. Oh, there's Bowery. So maybe she's here somewhere. Anyway, my point is, I just checking whether that's the same train line that runs through here. Be easier on the online map, but surely it's probably this train line going this way. And then here's a different First Avenue train line. Anyway, point is, she got off here, not here, not here. So that would lead you to believe that the hotel would be somewhere in here. So it would be a fairly reasonable area to search for hotels. But now let's look at the chat. Don't look up hotels in the directory. I will give you the list of hotels in the Bowery as an errata. There are 5 hotels. Boston Hotel, Hotel Florence, New Grand Hotel, Union Hotel, and the White House Hotel. Okay, so this is a little bit of an errata from a directory update kludge. So let's just write them down. 41535, that's the Boston Hotel, which is at 103-105 Bowery. Bowery 48, if I'm reading the chat message correctly. Where is that? Can I do that? There we go. 41535. Okay, that's the Boston Hotel. And then we've got 87430. These are BO hotels. 87430, which is Hotel Florence, which is at 77 Elizabeth, BO 46. Then we've got the New Grand, 207 Bowery, BO 30. Boy, that sounds like that might be the closest. That's at 37774. Remember, we've got to be efficient with our time because we're running out of time. That's BO 30. Okay, and then we've got one more. 81153. Union Hotel. 88 Bowery, which is on BO 54. And then we have the White House Hotel, which is 53287 at Bowery 05, 338 Broadway, 338 Bowery. Okay, so we've got 5 Bowery hotels as our errata. That's just fine. And I know where it seems to me would be most likely to catch her. If she's got off the train station at 30, in the 30 block of Bowery, there's a hotel right there, the New Grand, which sounds like a nice expensive hotel for a rich, spoiled girl. So this seems like maybe our prime candidate. So let's go there first. 37774. And then at some point, Anna can tell us what she thinks went wrong with me breaking the directories. Let's see if we can't find her. Okay, 3774. There is actually an entry. Let's read it. Thursday, Friday, or Saturday. It is Saturday, 29490. So we're starting at 37774. We're headed towards 29490. This is the Hotel Grand in the Bowery. 29490. This is exciting. We might be finding her. Pretty exciting if we finally found her, huh? The New Grand Hotel is a big fancy hotel you'd never be able to afford. The concierge looks at your trench coat and dirty shoes with disgust. I'm Detective Lucas, you tell him hurriedly before he calls for the bellboys to remove you from the premises. Can I talk to you for a moment, Mr. I am Monsieur Renard, the hotel's concierge. Yes, Mr. Renard. Monsieur Renard, if you please, detective. All right, Monsieur Renard, then. I just wanted to ask you about a lady I'm looking for, a Miss Georgia Price. Famous actress, maybe you know her. She was seen nearby yesterday, and I thought she might have booked a room here. She was wearing black shoes, a gray coat, and a blue scarf on her head, possibly sunglasses as well. And she had a gray bag with her. Unfortunately, I am unable to release any information about our guest, sir. Huh, so she is your guest, then? I said no such thing, sir. So she isn't your guest. You try, but he doesn't even answer this time, just looks disapprovingly at you. Circle marker U2. Okay, it's pretty telling. What do you read here? This feels like he's let it slip that she's the guest. Why does it feel like he's let it slip? Because when we try this little trick on, when he might have slipped up here, we catch him. When we catch him, we say, so he says, I said no such thing. And when we say, so she isn't your guest, if she wasn't a guest, I mean, if he was really knew what he was saying, you'd think he'd say something like, I just gave you the same answer I give everyone. I'm not saying she's there or not. But instead, when we catch him, he seems to be like, I better stop talking. I'm getting myself into trouble. Jones says, that was my first reading too, but I'm not quite as sure. I'm not as sure either, but let's think about this for a second. So a half hour has passed. It's now noon. It's time for us to go to give our report. So we've got an interesting choice to make. We can stop right now, give our report, and say this is the hotel we think she's in, and Mato agrees. Or we can keep looking. We could try to find our daily news. We don't have much more to go on. This could be a false lead. One thing that occurs to me, though, before we move along, let's just look at what else is in this block, because you could imagine that there'd be some place on this block that might have on this same block that might have noticed her come into this hotel. So there's our subway. There's a restaurant. Remember, she's been here in this neighborhood for a couple days. Oh, it's a restaurant supply store. Never mind. Clothing for men, no. Church type. A people's theater. There's the hotel. Vacant lot. A ballroom. No, she's not really hanging. I thought maybe we could find a restaurant she'd be eating in, but probably she's just eating in the hotel. Like, she has been here a couple days. I wonder if... Look at that map again. This is unlikely, but assume she's staying in that hotel and we want proof. You could imagine that we would check the park to see if anyone has seen her in the park or in 28. So like 28, 34, 37, 26, 29. Problem is, even if we saw her in the park, That wouldn't guarantee she's not in one of the other hotels. I'd be happier about seeing someone on that block saw her, but I don't think the places here are candidates. She's not super religious. She's not going into the men's store. I guess I'd rank the likelihood of someone seeing her nearby as pretty low. I guess the theater fans would be at a theater. They might recognize her as she was walking by. It's not a terrible idea, and it's unlikely to cost us anything if it was wrong. You want to check the People's Theater? 64419. Let's just quickly check the table of contents. We're going to cut the demerit, though, if this is in here. 64419, no entry. We don't know her to be a drinker. We know her to be a cocaine user. Doesn't really help us. If we were just doing due diligence around 30, we could try the park at 26. It's actually not a park. It's an undeveloped city lot, so that's not very useful to us. Oh, 28 and 34 across the street. That just seems very unlikely. 28 and 34. There's a restaurant. Probably she's a famous actress. She can't be gone. She can't be seen. There's our tea shop. She can't be seen walking around. She'll be seen. She's a famous actress. She can't be going to places. She's got to be hiding out in the hotel. Okay, so I think we found her. It makes the most sense. It's an expensive hotel that would suit her taste. It's right near the subway stop. I think we've got her. So I wouldn't mind taking a couple demerits to find Billy Jones, the Daily News person. Should we look at the entry in the first case about Billy Jones that we've apparently already talked to him a year ago? What was the Daily News? 70584, I think. Here was us discussing with the Daily News in case 1. Billy Jones is a fragile, feminine, soft-spoken guy, a real pansy. Not exactly the news hound you pictured. It's apparent he lives for juicy gossip, especially if it's connected to the village. It turns out he lives there. You only have to mention the Humphreys and he starts spilling. Mrs. Humphreys was the target of society gossip since last fall because of her close relationship with the notorious young Elmer Richardson. And then he goes on. So actually, Billy Jones lives in the village. And he's got the Russian dolls. How are we going to find him from that? Where would we do that? This is an interesting thought experiment. If we wanted to find the nesting Russian dolls, either in the village or Murray Hill, what would we be looking for? Maybe an antique shop? Where do we find antiques in the Yellow Pages? Antiques 14. Let's just look at this for a second and see if anything jumps out at us. We've only got a page worth of antiques. We would be looking for an antique shop in Greenwich Village or Murray Hill. Curated collectibles, curio cabinet, eccentric objects, the art. Unfortunately, Greenwich Village is filled with these places, so forgotten curiosities. Here's Murray Hill Heirloom Shop. Paris, no, we want Russian. Timeless treasures. None of those really jump out at me. Wasn't there an apartment we were in earlier where you commented about everything being Russian? I might be misremembering. There was certainly, yeah, there was in the East Village, but, or somewhere, a lot of Russians in that apartment building, but how do I don't know how that helps us. Like, we've noticed this on his desk, the Russian dolls. How about Toy Store? It's not really toys, but you could imagine we might buy those not in an antique shop, but in a toy store and novelty. 132. Remember, there are hints, and we might check out the hints. So let's just look at toy stores here. Probably we'll be looking one in Greenwich Village, Board Game Closet, or Murray Hill. We got a magic shop. Clinton Burgess Magic. Murray Hill Enchanting Illusions. Find Gifts. Hocus Pocus Magic Shop. Original 5 and Dime in Murray Hill. Puppet Pals and Toys for Children. More magic shops. Was there only one curio shop in Greenwich Village? When you say, was there only one curio shop, I'm not sure what you mean. Do you mean when we looked up antiques, and we looked up antique stores in Greenwich Village, you're saying only one jumped out at you as being relevant? Curated collections, curio cabinet. Of course, he could be shopping at his work too. Heirloom shop. I mean, would it be there? Would it be near his work? Timeless treasures. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why we would prefer one over the other. The problem is we've got 3 or 4 antique shops. That might be reasonable. Assuming it's where he lives. Okay, let's assume that we're trying to find where he lives. Let's try to think this out for a second. Let's assume from what we're seeing that he's a antique collector of these dolls. Let's assume that this would be bought at an antique shop. Or an ethnic shop. Okay, so we're gonna pursue this for a bit. This might be frustrating to watch, but we're gonna pursue this for a bit before we take a hint. We've got antiques, but we also could have ethnic shops. This is a little unusual. So if you look in the yellow pages, what you will notice is there is a section for, it's not under ethnic here anymore, but did it get moved to grocery stores, food markets, ethnic stores? It's a little tricky. If we go to grocery stores, ethnic markets, and food markets and ethnic stores, let's just pursue this for fun for a second, because I'm not sure. Sometimes, you know, yellow pages people might file things differently. So there's a page of ethnic stores, of grocery stores. Most of these would be irrelevant, but let's just see if any Russian ones jump out at us. We'd be looking for a Russian one in Greenwich Village, we think. Odessa, little Odessa. Where is Odessa? Anyway, wrong neighborhood. Russian food specialties in Italian Harlem. No, that's not right. Okay, so let's assume for a second that it's in Greenwich Village and it's going to be an antique shop. Jonathan says we could also be looking for a name similar to Matryoshka, the name for the dolls, but that seems like a stretch. Let's assume for a second, we know he lives in Greenwich Village, and let's assume this is antiques. If we've only got three, if we really need to find this guy, and we've only got a couple antique shops in Greenwich Village that might know him and know he lives across the street, let's just see what our 4 Greenwich Village antique shops are. Curated collections, 47219. I mean, knocking on 4 doors is not so crazy. 28244, 28244. The only problem is that we are going to take demerits if these places exist. Here's another one, 72357. If it was another neighborhood, it would be easier because there would only be one antique shop. But Greenwich Village, lots of them. The benefit is that if these entries aren't in our story, we won't be penalized. I'm going to assume we're looking for Greenwich Village, not stores, not Murray Hill stores. Timeless treasures, 55785. Okay, there's our 4 antique shops in the village. Anna says, when I wrote this, I thought players could use the neighborhood directory so they could look up someone easily in Greenwich Village. So Anna got access to an author-only document, which is basically a yellow pages per neighborhood. If you have a yellow pages per neighborhood, you can sort of scan down all the places. Now you'd have to use the reverse directory, but it is worth thinking about. So that's another hint from Anna, but okay. Let's just, before we check that's not going to be available to players. But if you did want to look down all the places in a neighborhood, you could use the reverse directory. So we could scan through this looking for commercial places that have Russian doll or something. Russian. It wouldn't take you too long to go through the places in a neighborhood if you were really... The problem is that sort of it's easy to overlook something, and it seems a long shot, but let's just do it for fun of it, and then we'll check these Greenwich Village antique shops if nothing jumps out at us. So we're looking for a store that might be related to the Russian dolls, Russian nesting dolls in Greenwich Village. Quite a bit to go through. If you only had commercial places, it would be easier, but you're not, that document that Anna had access to is not legal for players. Of course, if you're using the advanced search online, you could do it even easier. Cheat even easier. There's one of our antique shops. There's the tea shop. I'm looking for something like Russian doll shop, Russian doll tea shop, Russian doll. It's not going to be antiques because we've already got our antiques. It could be something else Russian. Not too much more to go. But this is how you would do it if you thought that you have to search an entire neighborhood for something that jumps out at you. You probably are having a hard time seeing it as I am, but there are different colors here for residents versus businesses, and I'm only looking for businesses. That's why I'm skimming over the apartment buildings. Hey, there's Ada Bossy. Did we try to visit Ada Bossy at her home? I think we must have. Find gifts. Find gifts. That's not in our list. What is that then? I'm gonna write that one down. 2884. Find gifts. Where the hell is find gifts in the yellow pages? Department store. I know this might not be the most riveting viewing, but this is sort of detective work, and I think it's useful to see what players who are determined to... That's another antique shop. What the... Find gifts has got to be a gift shop. Did we not find gift shops? I might have to look that up again. Gift shops. Greenwich Village. Are we almost done? Yes, we're almost done. It's a little hard. It's a little hard to get super motivated to work so hard to find this guy at the newspaper because we don't think he's that critical to what we need. On the other hand, if Georgia sent him a letter, that's kind of something I'd like to know about. If we can't find here, maybe we'll take a hint. It'd get us more demerits. No, I don't like that. Lots of galleries. Lots of duplexes here. There's Arthur Baxter. Did we look him up? Adam Hall's studio, and that's the artist of the box. 67024 Arthur Baxter. I'm just trying to remember if we tried to find Arthur Baxter at his home. He's one of our playwrights, one of our performers. Anna might be screaming by now if I've skipped over this. That's the other thing. I'm looking here, but what's the chances that I've skimmed over a word? All right, well, we're just about done, having scanned all over Greenwich Village. There's Simon Brook. There's our rookie. Fourth, I think. All right, well, this has been a failed attempt. I have a feeling it's in here somewhere based on Anna leaking a hint. But I must have scanned over it if there was a Russian name. And then the other concern was gift shop. So there's no entry in the yellow pages for gifts and no entry here for gifts. That's a little bit of an oversight. But I think maybe gift shops are under department stores. Department stores, toy stores, and novelty. I'm a little bit concerned that this gift shop I ran into, it should have been at toy stores and novelties. If not, I've got to fix that. All right, let me check in with the chat and see how much hell has broken loose. I see a Belskaya P. There's no way we're going to someone's residential address. You see a Russian note beside the dolls. You can't read the Cyrillic alphabet. This is Anna trying to errata something in there. I don't think that helps us. Paula Belskaya was a neighbor of Amy Morgan. What the fuck? Jesse, check. This one is on me. I need to rewrite the daily news entry. The secretary will say, Mr. Abdurakhmanov isn't here today. That's going to be his real name? Is that what you're saying? Okay, maybe you're trying to say that I feel like a bunch of stuff's might need to be fixed here. First of all, you're gonna have to remind us that he lives in Greenwich Village. If the only clue that he lives in Greenwich Village is from case 1, there's just no way. And these Russian dolls, I see what you're saying, but okay, so it sounds like maybe you're going to change this to give us his actual name. I guess if we know his name, we don't need to know where he lives. We'll look it up. But okay, let's see. If the secretary gives us his actual name, then the nesting dolls we don't need. Sounds like you're saying that we would have... Yeah, I don't know. Okay. No, it's not a problem, but Abdur Kamenov William is in Greenwich Village 36168. So it sounds like the antique shop angle and all that was all just to tell us the Russian dolls were probably meant to just tell us he's Russian. And I think Anna was hoping that we would be able to look at all the names of all the people who live in Greenwich Village and figure out that this guy has a Russian name. That is asking a little much from us. But now, scrolling back up is this weird comment about Jonathan saying he spotted a name that looked Russian. Belskaya. And then Anna saying Paula Belskaya was a neighbor of Amy Morgan that we already talked to. So that's just a coincidence, huh? All right, let's go to this errata newspaper guy who we think is his real name. 36168. You stand outside of the door. It's 12:30. We've just taken our first demerit for going past our scheduled meeting. Our boss is not going to be happy. You stand outside of the door of Mr. William J. Abdurrahmanov. So that's it. The moment of truth has come. You knock loudly. To your sister, says a voice in Russian before he opens the door. Detective. Billy looks utterly shocked. This is the effeminate guy. How the hell did you find out where I live? You grab his collar and push inside his apartment. Billy's in a silk robe. His hair is shiny from the half-gallon of oil he put on it. His fingers are bejeweled, and he wears some disgusting patchouli, which almost makes you gag. I've got you, you little shit. We're not happy about being in the paper. I'm a detective. Did you forget? I find people for a living, and I'm not here because of your pretty eyes. But I think you gathered that already. You have a tight grip on him. Now look here, detective. Why don't we calm down? We could talk like civilized people. Oh, I'm calm, Billy. I'm as calm as a mill pond. It's you who seem a bit nervous for some reason, of course. It means you're not as stupid as you look. You apply a bit more pressure to his neck. His face is pretty red now, but he gulps in some air and squeezes out, Okay, detective, what do you want? You let the miserable coward go. He's rubbing his throat, grimacing. I have friends everywhere, you know. In my profession, it's necessary, but I'm a little surprised this is your first question. And he looks genuinely surprised. Right, never mind that. Never mind how you got that photo. Tell me about Miss Price instead. How did you get the scoop about her disappearance? Or we're calling it the snoop back in 1930s. Billy walks to a bar cabinet, pours himself a drink. A gin, perhaps? Or perhaps you'd rather have a whiskey, detective. He looks at you, measuring your possible answer. Just answer me, will you? I got a cute little anonymous letter on Thursday about this whole kidnapping business. So I made a few calls and found out the rehearsal was indeed canceled at the Madison, and you were seen entering the building. What I couldn't find out, I guessed, hence my breaking news in the paper today. Show me the letter. Billy looks at you hesitantly, so you add, I bet you wouldn't leave such a precious document lying around in that madhouse you call an office. He sighs and takes out the letter from his drawer. Here. So we were right that she did mail Billy. That's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to be right about that. She mailed that from the post office in the Bowery where she's hidden out. Okay, very satisfying that I got that part. You really think this is a serious threat? You look at him very closely. Well, either a serious threat or some kind of joke. I don't really care. As long as Georgia Price is missing, I can make a big headline out of it. He looks at you cynically. And then we say, I'm taking the letter as evidence. As you wish, detective. I don't need it anymore. You're seriously considered roughing this soft sissy up a bit, but you dismiss the thought. He's not worth the trouble. Circle W2. All right, so we've chased down that lead. It only costs us 1 demerit, not the end of the world. Maybe there's a way to rewrite that Daily News lead that still requires a little bit of detective work. You could say something, well, we'll talk about it after. Let's take a look at this letter that we know who posted it. Dear Mr. Jones, we would like you to know that we kidnapped the famous star, Miss Georgia Price. Yeah, that's right. We want to get 10 grand from the theater for her. What do you think of that, Mr. Jones? It's a pretty big deal, don't you think? You should tell that director and the whole company that they better cough up the money because we're not kidding. If they don't collect the money before our deadline spelled wrong, we will kill her. That's right, Mr. Jones. We will kill your precious star, precious spelled wrong. And what will you write about then? So you better tell them to take this threat seriously. Again, misspelled. A friend. All right, so what else? How else is this document useful to us? We know who's writing it. We know it's Georgia Price. We knew that already. We know she's faking her kidnapping. That's more confirmation of it. But what else is useful about this? What else is useful is that we had a long discussion about the typewritten letter to the Village Vanguard newspaper. And I sort of argued that it wasn't about the divorce. And I sort of argued it wasn't written from Georgia, but it seems pretty clear now that it's Georgia. Is it the same typewriter? It looks like the size is a little different, but I feel like it's the same typewriter. Maybe not. Periods don't look the same. Commas don't look the same. This actually feels like a different typewriter. Are there any spelling errors in this one? Let's read this again. Famous couple living in your neighborhood. That's right, the famous stars. I argued this wasn't sent by Georgia, but boy, the font looks similar. But you know what? Maybe it's not. It's a big secret. And now you're another one, Mr. Editor. I think you should report this interesting news in the paper years, don't you think? In any event, if you're not going to do it, I will send a similar letter to the Daily News. I'm sure Billy Jones, so she already knows Billy Jones at the paper. Let me show you I'm not trying to trick you, and I really know what I'm talking about. Here are some exact details. No spelling errors here. But boy, it's awfully coincidental. They're both calling it a friend. Favor is spelled, boy, this is a very subtle clue, but I want you to notice that favor is spelled the British way. That's a pretty subtle clue. She was trying to get her husband to interfere. This is tricky because I think these are different type fonts. They're very similar though. But they are different, I believe. Period looks different. Commas look different. Notice we could zoom in. I mean, look at the comma. It's the only thing that's a little tricky is, yeah, these are different font, different typewriter. That's very odd. One person's not going to have two typewriters. Be nice to find a letter that looks completely differently. Like, surely there have to be very completely different letters. No spelling errors. So surely this is not by her still. Surely we still think this letter's not by her. It's just a coincidence that they're both called friend. They're both signed by a friend. Interesting. Okay, regardless, it's time for us to go give our report. Do we all agree? I'm also not sure if there could be some auto scaling going on in the case. That's a sort of meta discussion about the casebook tool, but there shouldn't be, but there could be. That's a little meta discussion about the Okay, and it says, here's a dilemma. Do you want better scores but miss out on a chunk of the story, or do you want the story more? If the latter, I have a hint for you. Let's make a note to myself that Jesse and Anna check fonts. So when we compare the fonts, they look different. And so if when I look at my tool, they are the same, supposed to be the same font, but they're auto scaling, I should fix that. So I'll write a note to myself and we can find out that there. Okay, but now we have to face Anna's question. Do you want better scores and miss out a chunk of the story, or do you want the story more? If it's the latter, I have a hint for you. So what Anna is saying is that we would normally go to questions now. And the game is not going to have forced us to have found this little story chunk, which is completely reasonable. And Anna is asking whether we want to accept the fact that we've missed out a little bit of the story, or do we want to take some demerits so that we can go to a couple more leads and refresh a little bit more of the story. What does the chat vote? I did logically argue it didn't make sense for her to send it. So I think we've got two different typewriters coincidentally signing it a friend, which might not be that big of a coincidence because many letters to the newspaper during that age might have just, when you write a letter to the editor, you write signed a friend. So it could just be in the water. Jonathan, what do you think about Anna's offer here? I think I'd be inclined to take the demerits and get the hint, and then we can talk about whether that's something we should have thought of and missed, or whether a player would have needed more help. I guess it's trying to find the chunk of the story we're missing a fun puzzle or deduction. But the point is that once we read the questions, it's going to have been too late. And it says no fun puzzle. But it was something we were meant to have discovered on our own. I think you should give us the hint and we should take the demerits. And then we can talk about whether that was something that the player needs more help to find. But maybe we'll try to handle it quickly. Well, 30. Is it really 12:30? I think I guess it's, according to me, it's 12:30. Talk to the remaining 2 actors as well. Okay, well, we should have done that. We should have done that on our own, so I think that's on us. Well, you saw that I ran into one of them while just going through the newspaper, but did we just not do our due diligence on the remaining 2 actors? I think what we're talking about is Arthur Baxter. I don't think we ever visited, and Stanley Street. I think these are the 2 we never followed up on. I believe that's right. And I also thought about Vernon Taylor, the husband. So if these are the 2 we never followed up on, that's certainly our fault. Why did we not follow up on these, Jonathan? And then I was also interested in Vernon Taylor. So I kind of want to go through those 3. I'm not sure. Jonathan says, I think it was just a mix of time pressure and them seeming not immediately relevant. Anna! I was already going to do that. Okay, Jonathan says, we just ran out of time. All right, so I was thinking that Vernon Taylor was the one who wrote to the paper. All right, so we're going to take some demerits and visit these 3 people. We are allowed to take some demerits, so let's go do it. Arthur Baxter, Stanley Street, and Vernon Taylor. Let's look these people up. Arthur Baxter, I did look up recently, but misplaced it. So there's our Arthur Baxter, 67024. Stanley Street. It's true, we didn't have a huge amount of time left over, but we could have investigated these people. Street, Stanley, 31197. And the person I thought might have written the original newspaper about the divorce was Vernon Taylor. So I'm most interested in following up on him because I always did plan to follow up on him. Taylor, Vernon, 57887. Where did we just kill time? I guess we could have taken more demerits. What should we have deprioritized over them? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe just taking demerits is reasonable. But let's go visit these places. So I want to visit Vernon Taylor first. We're going to take a bunch of demerits as we go to these extra leads, but it feels like we're going to be able to get these in our 4 overtime leads. Okay, here's Vernon Taylor first. We've got a nice person dropping in. Nino, hello. 5, 7, 8, 7. Okay, so here's Vernon Taylor, who I suspect might have written that initial letter. 30 minutes, it's now 1 p.m. When Mr. Taylor opens the door, he suddenly becomes very suspicious and barks at you. Are you a reporter? Because if you are, you can go to hell. I don't have a comment about anything. He's about to shut the door, but you extend your arm to stop it. No, Mr. Taylor, I'm Detective Lucas from the NYPD. I'm investigating a missing persons case. I'd like to ask you a few questions if you have a moment. Missing person? Did something happen to Eloise? That's his wife. No, not Miss Kellett. Someone else from the company. I hope it's that piece of shit Tracy then, no? Whatever. I don't even care anymore. I left behind that unfaithful slut and all her immoral friends at the theater. He spits when he says that. Thankfully it didn't hit you. There are lots of rumors about it. I just wanted to know the truth. The truth? I'll tell you the truth. I went to the theater to surprise my wife on our anniversary, and I found her busy screwing that womanizing piece of shit Tracy guy. I just stood there like a moron with the roses and the chocolate while that cheap Casanova hurriedly put on his clothes. My wife didn't even bother with that. The shameless slut just lit up a cigarette buck naked. Told me our marriage was over, so I shouldn't have bothered with the chocolate and the flowers. That heartless bitch, I was afraid I was going to strangle her. But I just divorced her cheating ass instead. And he slams the door for emphasis at the end of his tirade. So we don't have a picture of him, but here is the wife he's talking about. Innocent-looking Eloise Kellett, sitting there naked, smoking a cigarette, telling him the marriage is over. What do you think about my theory that he's the one who wrote in the paper now? R2. Anna likes to give us points for being thorough, too. That would be another reason to just take demerits and do this. Let me give ourselves another demerit for going overtime. I've done it right there. Our boss is going to be pissed off at us, so I can see why we're getting the demerits. I'm just saying, I don't see where it's a big logical oversight that we failed to visit these leads in time. It's not a big deal, but I'm also not sure we need to beat ourselves up about it. Yeah, okay, that's fair enough. But I did want to follow this up, so... And it's hard. A big case, it's hard. It's easy to overlook stuff, but I do think it's room for improvement on our part. Thursday or Friday, 46134. 1197. This is our Stanley Street. 46134. We'll finish this line of reading off and then we'll take a break and answer questions. Arthur Neville Baxter, 30 minutes. It's 1:30. Oh my God, our boss is going to be so mad. Mr. Baxter, can I talk to you for a moment? It seems Miss Price has been missing since yesterday's rehearsal. Do you know anything that could be helpful in finding her? The man doesn't look like an actor, more like anyone you would pass on the street. Here's who we're talking about here. It seems that not every actor has to be a heartthrob. Missing? You mean nobody has seen her since yesterday? That's strange. Strange? Well, George is not the kind of woman who's good at blending in and not being seen. I assume you've seen her, right? Yeah, I've seen her, Mr. Baxter. Question is, have you seen or heard anything out of the ordinary yesterday's rehearsal, for example? I don't think so. Georgia was in a better mood than I've seen her since she found out last week that the papers were writing about her debut on the stage, but weren't writing about that, but rather about Audrey's love life. Yeah, let's just say it was a long week. And what caused her good mood yesterday? Who knows why she did anything, really, or why she was in a good or bad mood. She was very capricious, you know, changeable, like the weather in Britain. In Britain? My mother's from England. She always says things like that. And what do you know about the feud between Miss Price and Miss Seals? Their lack of compatibility was very evident from the beginning, like in how they approached their work. Georgia came from a filming background and was used to close-up reactions, not very useful on stage, I'm afraid, while Audrey trained on stage, so she was way better in a play than Georgia. Audrey felt she was more of an actress than Georgia because of that, although she never actually said anything about it, but one could tell. Georgia finally became openly hostile towards her. She used vulgar language a few times when she talked about Audrey. It was quite embarrassing. And what about Miss Seals and Mr. Tracy's divorce? What about it? Did you know about it before last week? No. And how about Mr. Tracy's real name? Did you know that before the papers made it public? Well, actually, yes, I did know about that. I worked with Trace on a few productions already, so we've known each other for a few years now, and it came up at some point, but what of it? Okay, well, this is a very cool moment because I think we've figured out who wrote the newspaper, who wrote the letter to the newspaper. And I think it's Arthur Baxter. That's a very subtle stuff happening here. We've got a guy who doesn't look like a heartthrob, who's being a little bit cagey here about what he knew about this affair. And what he knew about it. And then the biggest clue is this part about him making this British comment. Very capricious, like the weather in Britain. And then he says, my mother's in England. She always says things like that. And then when we look at this letter that we're trying to figure out who it might be from, telling on the divorce, I noted this word favor. I wonder if there's anything else in here that would confirm. And yet he says he didn't know anything about it, but this person does know the husband's. That's the other thing. Yeah, because I thought it was Vernon Taylor, the husband of Eloise Kellett, but whoever wrote this letter knew this person's real name, Sylvester Tracy's real name, which is Monroe. So the question is, there are very few people who had that information, and now it turns out that Arthur Baxter was one of the few people. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I think Jonathan was the one who pointed out at a previous stream that the person who wrote into the paper had to know this other name, but it didn't really register how important it was to me till we read this. How few people knew his true name. And now we know he's writing in British English and he knows the true name. And Jonathan is giving me a little pat on the back. Spotting the favor spelling was a great catch. Okay, so we have answered one of our lasting questions about who wrote the first note to the paper. So cool. So cool. All right, so that's another demerit. And then we're going to take one more demerit and talk to Stanley Street. Pretty cool. Okay, the last person in our collection of actors in this troupe, Stanley Street, 31197. Oh, this is going to bring us to 2 o'clock. We are going to get yelled at. I think we already went. Yes, okay. 31197, which takes us to 60818. And it's going to be 2 p.m. after this. How cool was that, though? Figuring out who wrote that newspaper letter. All right, here's our last entry before we head to the chief to present our report. Stanley Street. A young man answers the door. You recognize him from the picture Day gave you. It's Stanley Street, the youngest member of the company. You introduce yourself to him and tell him you want to talk about Miss Price. About Miss Price? He asks, surprised. Have you seen her since yesterday? No, I haven't. Today's rehearsal is canceled. Why? Turns out no one has seen Miss Price since yesterday's rehearsal. Seriously? He lets out a low whistle. That's unreal. I mean, Miss Price is the type of woman who's always seen by a lot of people, type of actress who's always acting, even in real life, and wants admiration and applause all the time. Seems unlikely no one has seen her for a while. Sounds like you aren't one of her admirers. Look, don't get me wrong. I'm truly fortunate to work with these famous actors, though I am a beginner. I mean, at first, maybe I was a bit starstruck when Miss Price arrived, but it turned out she's just a human being like everyone else. It's totally different seeing someone on the silver screen and in real life. So how did you find this star in real life, Mr. Street? Well, not a very kind person, that's for sure. And what about their rivalry, her rivalry with Miss Seals? Her rivalry, it should be. Well, you know actresses, most of them hate each other, I'm told. Who told you that? Trace, I guess. So you're on good terms with Mr. Tracy. I love it, most of them hate each other. Yeah, he's very kind to me. He's a very experienced actor, but he accepted me as his protege. We spent a lot of time together, especially since his divorce started. You knew about the divorce before last week. Yeah, but I gave my word I wouldn't talk about it to anyone, and I didn't, I swear. Trace was very good to me. He took me out a few times since we started working together on the play. You know, show me the ropes, considering I'm new to this whole theater scene, as he said. Show you the ropes? Yeah, like where to go, if I wanted to have a good time, what to drink so as not to look like some out-of-town chump. He introduced me to his friends, even to ladies, you know, that sort of thing. And when did he first mention the divorce? I don't know. He didn't even say it was a divorce at first. He just became very gloomy at the beginning of December. Didn't want to go out anymore. I kept asking him what the matter was. I even mentioned that I maybe should ask for somebody's help. That's when he said I couldn't breathe a word about this to anyone, but his wife filed for divorce. I even mentioned that he maybe should ask for someone's help. Anyway, and did you ask him why she filed for divorce all of a sudden? I was told Mr. Tracy's affair with Miss Kellett was long over by December, and everyone thought Miss Seals forgave her husband. Yeah, I asked him about that. I asked him why she filed for divorce all of a sudden. Oh, I asked about that. But he only said he was a fool who never learned, so maybe Audrey was right to divorce him. He sounded very pathetic, like I've never heard him before. Did you know Mr. Tracy's real name was Monroe? No, I didn't. I was pretty surprised when I read it in the paper. It stung a bit, to be honest. I thought we became real friends, Trace and I, in the last few months, and a thing like that should have come up between us, but I was wrong, I guess. Circle marker S2. Okay, so you can see that these angles are about who leaked the newspaper article. So it's actually pretty fun that we chased down that lead. From a meta perspective, part of the reason I also don't really think that much about visiting the last two actors at home is because the other actors' homes kept telling us to come back on Sunday. Might have already been mentioned and I missed it. It might be a nice nudge that when at the original theater lead mentioning these two have nothing else going on and should be just at home. I guess it's already implied because the others are mentioned eventually in the paper. Just my 2 cents. While we're at it, I think I have a different sort of take. And here's what I would do. Here would be the suggestion I would give Anna if she asks for my help. When we saw this paper from early January about this divorce, we decided on our own that we should try to figure out who sent it. The game didn't tell us that's important, but we decided it was important for us to want to answer it. And I think getting the second letter, typewritten letter, was actually very cool, that it looked similar. And it almost made me think, okay, it is Georgia, but it didn't really make sense. So we still, and then when we compared them carefully, they look different. That's pretty subtle, but I like the idea that we concluded still that this wasn't written by Georgia. Here's the one thing I would suggest to Anna, though, from a game design perspective. I think the danger is that a player might not think they have to answer this question now, and might think they have more time to solve who wrote this. And what I would do is I would give the player a subtle hint that they're going to need to answer this. And I think that would be enough to motivate talking, making sure we talk to all the people. It's the same thing about, like, now that we think we know where Georgia is, that feels like that's wrapped up and we're not going to need to answer any more questions. So I might have a little bit of information in the lead when we get this first letter. I might have the detective say to himself, I'm going to have to, he could just be saying to himself, he gets this letter and he could say, when I talk to the chief about Georgia, I'm going to have to give him my guess as to who wrote this letter, something like that. Just so as players, we know that by the time we have this meeting with the chief, we're going to have a good answer for him about who wrote this letter. And I think that would be enough to motivate us to talk to everyone and nail this down. And I think that's just a general thing. It's tricky to communicate to players without giving too much away what you expect for them to be able to solve when they get to the end. And I think that would be helpful. But I think there's another thing that could be said. Another thing that could be said. It is completely reasonable to treat that letter like a side story. And just say that some players are not going to get it. Some players are not going to run it down. They're not going to figure out who wrote that letter, and that's going to be okay. So this is not a critique, just a little suggestion about maybe how to let people go down this trail, which is a very cool trail. It is a very cool side story. It would be completely reasonable to say this is a side story. I'm not going to give players any hints about it. If they figure it out on their own, great, they get some bonus. If they don't, they don't. If you wanted to nudge them, I would nudge them not by saying you should talk to everyone, but I would nudge them by saying, when I give my report, I'm going to have to explain this letter and maybe where Georgia is. And that would at least let them know what they're up against. Let's take our last demerit for going to 4 leads beyond, and now we're going to arrive at the chief 2 hours late for our meeting. He's not going to be happy. He's already docked us the demerits, but I feel great about wrapping up that question that we posed to ourselves, who wrote that first letter. And I think Anna deserves a huge amount of credit for making those balance of psychology and logic, the wording favor, the whole thing, pretty damn good. Pretty good. And the psychology, who is told on this guy? It's the guy who's jealous of him because he doesn't look like a heartthrob. I really like that psychology. Anna is really good at the psychological stuff. All right, let's take our break. We've been playing for almost 3 hours, 2 hours, 40 minutes. We're going to take our break. Then we're going to go give our report to the chief. Try to have a good explanation, a good excuse why we're 2 hours late for this meeting. I'll see you in 8 minutes. Okay, I'm sorry that I'm late coming back by almost 2 minutes. I spilled my coffee on a couple of our documents. So the handle didn't pop off, but I filled it up too high. If you hear me slurping, you know I've already gone on the record. That's on purpose. It's not in bad taste. I think the coffee tastes better if you slurp. Okay. Anna says, don't forget to use the online questions that have been modified slightly. And if you want to look up a hint, I have an errata. So I don't know if you're saying that we may need hints now for these questions. I guess we're going to find out. All right, let's go ahead and try the online version of the questions, which have been updated. I should have thought about the fact that we were probably going to, that this was probably going to result in some changes, and I'd want to print out a new copy of this case for the records, which would have let us write on it. Okay, let's see if we can bring it up, right? Okay, so I wonder if I need to reload this. Failed to load. Okay, that's something I'm going to want to consider, because if the files, if the size changed, I'm putting the pages in there differently. It's okay. I'll fix that. I'll talk about it in the thing, but this is what we need to do. We need to load the latest case from Anna. All right, now we want to go to, don't look, I guess you don't want to look at anything giving away. We're going to go to answers part 1. This was the answers that we already... Why am I in a different page? Why am I... Hold on a second, I'm confusing myself a little bit. So we opened this up in the player. Okay. I must have been on a 8/17. Okay, that is from today. So what did I do wrong? I must have opened it also in a separate tab. I guess that would also be good enough for us. Maybe I clicked this instead. I must have clicked this. I clicked it here. Okay, that's fine. That's good too. But that explains. Sorry, I just confused myself here, because now we can just... No, I guess I'm wrong. I guess I do want it in the viewer, just because I have that configured to occupy the screen in a convenient way for reading. Okay, and then we want the answers part 1. This is our reading of the answers we already read from part 1, and now we are going to go to questions part 2. Okay, here we are. Read the questions, and only if you're ready to report to the chief, and it's Saturday between 9 and 12. It's after 12, but that's okay. And if you have circled... Okay, let's see if we've circled everything we need to have circled. You can see this is not ideal for me to put side by side with this stuff. Do I have a better way to do it? Is it like... I guess I don't have a better screen to share. All right, let's just go to this again, and you'll just trust me here. B2 we have marked. F2 we have not marked. Okay. Let's make a note of the ones we haven't marked. I think this is something we may want to talk about at some point. Anna is very strict on having a very comprehensive list of markers we had to have found. And I'm not sure all of these really should be required, but okay, F2 we're missing, G2 we have, H2 we have, J2 we're missing. L2 we have, M2 we have, O2 we have, Q2 we have, V2 and W2 we have. So we have everything, but we're missing F2 and J2. So if you had all these markers, we'd get a thorough and we'd get +2 reputation. If you have the whole second alphabet, which we don't because we're missing F2 and J2, but actually we have everything else, we would get +5 reputation. If you don't have the required markets, you probably won't be able to answer all questions. You can go back and follow more leads now. If you decide not to go back, record +1 impatient. Okay, so now this is Jonathan says, I told you about J2 previously, that we actually did have it from visiting Jerry. Okay, thank you. So we actually had J2, but we are missing F2. And Anna agrees, you have J2. Okay, so maybe that was when we circled I2 and we should have circled J2. I'll bet that was it. Okay, so now what do we want to do about F2? That is the question. And I think it might be an opportunity for us to check out the hint system and see how it feels. I'm of two minds, so let's talk about this. For sure, we're not just going to go out and randomly try to stumble on F2. So we need some help in knowing where F2. So I think we should test out the hint system. Alternatively, I feel like we know enough that I could take the impatient. We could reasonably take the impatient and check and decide not to go back, which I kind of like this idea of Anna's, of saying, you don't have to go back and get everything. I've warned you that you might be missing something. I like that. I like that we're given the option. I like that we're going to show up as a style of play as impatient, but I'd be inclined to look at it. So we are going to try to take a hint for F2. Anna says, don't look up hint F2. So are you saying, Anna, that you haven't yet written into the case? Yes, I see it. Are you saying you haven't written into the case the proper hint for F2 yet, so you're just going to give us the hint? If so, go ahead and give it to us. I'll give you the errata now, and then you're going to work in the hint. Okay, errata for hint F2. Did you look up all the Bowery hotels? I see. You think, okay, so that's a good hint. That is a good hint. Maybe we were on the wrong trail. We thought about visiting them all, but we were short on time. That's good. I like that idea. It's the alternate universe Anna is giving us that hint. Okay, so we're going to, I have chosen that we're going to go back and take demerits and look those up. So what are the rules here? We can follow rule extra leads. Time's not passing, but a demerit for each lead you visit. Fair enough. Okay, so let's find our list of Bowery hotels. Here they are. We only visited the one because we were quite sure. Now let's see. Now this is going to be a great test, but because we are going to see if Anna is requiring leads even though they're not really necessary. So I'm not going to give us the demerits yet. We're going to visit these hotels, but if these hotels were just for fun, then it's wrong to require it. But maybe we were wrong in our gut of this hotel. And maybe this is a good lesson, like as a police procedural. You go to the one hotel and you're like, I don't trust this guy. This is where she is. Or do you need to dot your I's and cross your T's? So let's go ahead. We're going to go to these. At least we're going to go to them until we hit our marker, F2. So what would be the next most likely place that she would be? Next most likely hotel. B05 is going to be up in the upper left. So probably the numbers are closer. Wherever numbers are closer. Bowery 30. I'm still blown away by that letter thing, but I guess we can talk that when we answer questions. So if this is where she got out of her hotel, the second most likely places would be the 40s, 46, 48, then 50, and then all the way up in 5, which seems very unlikely because she would have gotten out at this train station, I would have thought. Assuming this is the same train line. All right, so we'll hit these in order. We think maybe 46 and 48 are the next most likely. Hotel Florence. 87430. Eight 7430 says Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. Go to 33756. Okay, here is the Hotel Florence, a nice heavy entry. You walk inside the cozy little hotel on Grand Street. It looks more like a big welcoming house where you would be the guest of a very kind and grandmotherly lady who sits at a reception. Welcome, welcome. Come in, young man. I'm Mrs. Florence, the owner of this beautiful hotel. Are you looking for a room, perhaps? She smiles at you widely. No, sorry, I'm just looking for a lady. A very pretty lady, actually. What are you talking about? Her smile freezes on her face suddenly. I really hope you didn't think this was that sort of establishment, she asks, outraged. What? No. I'm looking for a Miss Georgia Price, a famous actress. Maybe you know her. It seems these words haven't lessened the old lady's suspicions, and you continue hurriedly. She was seen nearby, and I thought she might have booked a room in your hotel. She was wearing black shoes, gray coat, blue scarf on her head, maybe sunglasses as well, and she had a gray bag with her. Look, young man, if you're not here for a room, I can't help you. Not customary to give out sensitive information about guests. Her eyes are even more suspicious than before, however incredible that may seem. So she is your guest, then? You ask her accusingly. I said no such thing. Goodbye, young man. Actually, lady, I'm a detective from the New York police, Detective Lucas. You look at her triumphantly, but it doesn't last long. Whether you're a detective or not, I can't tell you anything else. Goodbye. And she continues to read her paper demonstratively. It's the Daily News. Circle marker F2. So this is interesting because, okay, we're going to play by the rules here. F2 seems like a reasonable place that you should have gone. And this has gotten us our markers, so you could stop here. Now, this is an interesting thing because it's almost the same thing as the first hotel we went to, where she's like, I can't give out information. And we're like, so she is your guest? And she's like, I didn't say anything about that. So she also doesn't want to give us information. But what does this tell us? This is the clue we need to know she's not here. Right? This last sentence is how we know she's not at this hotel, correct? because this lady is reading the Daily News. No. She's reading the Daily News where there was a picture of her being kidnapped. So surely, if this lady was a guest, she would be saying, I know where she's being held. I know where she's not kidnapped. I can break this whole case wide open. Surely she wouldn't be lying about her. The only way to around that is if Georgia tells her like she's a runaway woman from an abusive husband, but it's in the paper here that she's been kidnapped. So surely she would tell a detective that if this woman was in the hotel. Jonathan disagrees, but I feel fairly confident that this woman is not in the hotel. This old lady who runs this hotel, if someone was in her room, she would recognize her in the paper, and she would say, I want to help save this woman, or I want to tell you about this kidnapping and how to solve it. But Jonathan says, I'm reading it as George is paying her off or something. No, you're not paying off. I don't see how you pay off a hotel owner to lie to the police about you for that. That's like, that would require a very big bribe and you'd have to come up with a reason. I just don't see it. But, all right, I'm going to give us a demerit for that. Now, do you want to go? We've got the marker we need. It's an interesting thing. Are you curious to go to, let's go to one more hotel, 48, the Boston Hotel, 41535, and we can talk about the meaning of this a little bit more. But I feel confident she's not here. But I can see Jonathan's point. I just don't think it's that easy to bribe. 41535 is not in the directory. 81153. That's not in the directory either. So it's not the others. It was our first and second choice. I think that's actually a very reasonable thing to have expected police to do. Like, we checked our top place, and it seems like Anna is punishing us for not checking our top two. And I think that's completely reasonable. But Jonathan and I are still in a little bit of a disagreement about... I think the logic must be the fact that the hotel owner should already be aware of all this from reading the paper, and acting like she doesn't know anything is to show she's lying. That's a very interesting theory. But why do you think... Oh, I see what you're saying. I thought we didn't mention her name, but you are right that we do actually mention her name. I'm looking for Miss Georgia Price, a famous actor. Maybe you know her. Huh. That's a good point. I was thinking we just described someone and she wouldn't make the connection. But you're saying if she's reading the news, surely she should say, oh yeah, Georgia Price, I just read the article about her. And of course she's not here. Well, you make a good point, Jonathan. That's an interesting thing. That's a very interesting point. You're saying what her natural reaction should be, Georgia Price, you mean the kidnapped woman from the paper? She's not here. Still, I find it hard to believe you'd be able to pay off this woman to lie to the police. You can pay off a bellhop, but you're paying off the owner of a hotel. That seems very hard to do. Well, maybe she just hasn't gotten to this part of the paper yet. All right, but we've got our marker, and it only costs us 1 demerit. Not bad. All right, I think we've got enough. Whether we're right or wrong, whether we've worked it all out, it's time for us to do our questions. It is an interesting discussion, though. I like that it's a little bit of a psychological discussion about both hotel owners who both said they didn't want to give us information because it would be improper. I also think it's more likely that she's going to the Grand Hotel. That's another reason I just think she's probably still in there. Okay, here we go. So we have the markers, but we don't get any bonuses. That's too bad. Now, we don't mark impatient because we did go back and get them all. We didn't need to use the hints. Okay, when you're ready, here we go. The kidnapped actress. Police station Saturday, January 19th. You arrive at the station in a good mood. Even the rain didn't dampen your spirits today because you're eager to give the good news to the chief. And the real upside to the whole thing is that you don't have to talk to these actors, actresses, and uppity servants anymore. The gossip and intrigue around Georgia Price has started to get on your nerves and even worse, ruin your appetite. The chief leans forward, eyes sharp. So, Lucas, you got her? Georgia Price, you found her? He doesn't wait. Was it a kidnapping? Something uglier. If it wasn't, who sent the ransom note? And if it was, what the hell happened? Give a detailed explanation for every question. Names, times, locations, motive, means, and opportunity, and every piece of evidence you found or theory you constructed. Did you find Georgia Price? I mean, she's at one of these hotels. I'm voting for the Grand Hotel. Jonathan is voting for Hotel Florence. If you're in the chat, now is your time. Get on the record. Where do you think she is? I need to have a screen that properly puts up. Oh, I guess that's it. That's the screen. Okay, get on the record. Now, was it really a kidnapping, yes or no? No. It was a staged kidnapping by Georgia herself. Who sent the ransom note? We know Georgia cut it out of the new magazine she had collected. She gave it to the bum in the subway to deliver. He never delivered the second letter. What is happening here? Okay, what happened? Well, we've talked through the whole theory of everything. How she wants the attention, how she's hiding out in the hotel. But yeah, it's not exactly clear what this question is asking. But basically, it's asking us for all the other details that we've figured out. That she went to the post office, she mailed the letter to the Daily News, trying to get an article written about her, and it worked, right? It was that letter that arrived that caused the Daily News guy, Billy Jones, to do some research, talk to his informants, and write the article about her kidnapping. So, who sent the random note? What the hell happened? All that. Does anyone else want to get on the record that thinks she's not in either of these hotels? The reason why we're now very convinced she's at a hotel is because of the Bowery thing. Originally, we thought she might be walking down to stay with Benji. But now it makes a lot of sense that she's down in the Bowery at a hotel. All right, I don't think we need to have a vote. It's just a matter of Florence Hotel or Grand Hotel. Boy, though, if you're in the chat and you've been following along, it would be good to get on the record now whether you think she's at the Grand Hotel or the Florence Hotel. And Jonathan is saying, for the record, I now think Georgia slept with Tracy to hurt Audrey, if that matters. That's a good observation on Jonathan's part. You could even see, though, why Audrey Seals, like Georgia and Audrey Seals used to get along well. And you might even guess that even if it's not true, you could imagine that the trouble between the two happened because when the leak to the paper about the divorce of Audrey Seals came out, Audrey Seals may have incorrectly assumed that Georgia, this narcissist, revealed to the paper about the divorce, even though now we know it was Arthur Baxter. Arthur Baxter or Stanley Street? I couldn't figure out which one. Okay, no one's coming on the record to give their vote. If you're watching this at home, after the fact, pause your VCR, write down where you think Georgia is, including saying that it's impossible to tell what hotel she's in. That's a reasonable answer. I suppose if we were really giving our report to the police, we'd be like, my gut tells me she's here, but she could be in either of these two places, so just go to both of them. One of those people is getting in trouble. One of those hotel owners is getting in trouble, surely. Although, I guess it's reasonable to say I'm not allowed to share it with the police. All right, here we go. I think telling Audrey she slept with Tracy is what the diary entry... you're right. She did absolutely tell Audrey that she slept with Tracy, but we think that's after the fact, long after the newspaper article. I'm just saying that you could imagine the scenario a little bit differently, where the divorce article comes out, then Seals blames Georgia and starts making fun of her, and that's when the anger starts. But that's still consistent with your theory that Georgia slept with Tracy to hurt Audrey. It's not after the newspaper article. It's not? Maybe it's not. I mean, Eloise is the person who's initially sleeping with Audrey Seals' husband. It's Eloise Kellett who has the affair with Tracy that ruins the marriage originally with Seals. I don't remember when Georgia sleeps with Tracy, but it's not the original affair that causes the divorce. Remember, the original affair that causes the divorce with I guess it's Eloise Kellett's divorce happens first, and then comes Tracy and Seals. Okay. But you're saying it was Georgia's affair that broke their divorce up. Okay. Well, let's do this since this is what we were asked about. Here we go. You shake your head slowly, letting the answer land piece by piece. I don't have the actress, Chief, but I know exactly where she is. Hotel Florence, 221 Grand Street, down in the Bowery. The landlady's guarding the door like a bulldog, so I couldn't get past her. Jonathan was right. But here's the thing. Georgia Price isn't being held, not by anyone. She's there by choice. No kidnapping, never was. She wrote the ransom note herself. You let that sink in. Yep, cut up magazines, the same one she kept in her drawers back home, but she slipped up. Misspelled die and other words like kidding. She messes up words in her diary the same way. She left a trail, Chief. Didn't even realize it. Okay, so we're not going to get 20 points here. I'm going to take off 5 points. I'm going to give us 15. Georgia Price, she's the kind... I mean, Jonathan got it right, so Jonathan gets the full 20 points at least. I don't get the full 20 points. Maybe we should split the difference. I'll do the -3 like I did before, because Jonathan did get it right. So I'll give us 17. Jonathan is responsible for us not getting less. Georgia Price, she's the kind that needs the spotlight like other people need air. And right now, she's got her big Broadway debut. Figured the papers would be all over her. Front page, full column, her name in lights. You shake your head, but since last Thursday, every rag in town's been chewing on a different story. Audrey Seals, George's rival, filing for divorce. Husband caught stepping out with another actress in the same play, Eloise Kellett. Paper said last year Kellett ditched her own husband, but nobody knew why back then. Now they do. Georgia Price, she got pushed off the front page before she even made it on. Truth is, this rivalry didn't start yesterday. It's been brewing. Miss Price had it out for Audrey Seals for a while, and everyone knew it. The whole company, her husband, even her shrink. The doc had her keep a diary, said it'd help her vent, keep the lid on all that poison she's carrying around. You shake your head. Didn't do too much good, it seems. She was obsessed, always taking shots at Seals, loud, messy, impossible to ignore. Most folks were already sick of her tantrums, the constant drama. Of course, it wasn't one-sided. Ada Bossy says Seals could be just as mean, only quieter about it. That kind that cuts you without making a scene. 20 points. Okay, we got the full 20 points. After Thursday, Georgia Price wasn't just angry anymore. She was desperate. Needed the spotlight back no matter the cost. So she cooked up her own kidnapping. She sent her maid out for a Manhattan map and directory, wanted somewhere quiet to vanish, close enough to manage, far enough to sell the story. Tuesday, she made one last play, though. Tried to get her husband, Lord Lytton, to pull strings, push Seals out of the company, but it didn't work. That's when the plan stuck. Her diary lays it out plain as day. Once she committed, she didn't look back. Timed it just right. Before the premiere, figured the papers would eat it up, make her the headline she thought she deserved. She made 2 ransom notes, cut up her own magazines for letters like in some dime store crime novel. Put the notes in plain envelopes and handed them off to a bum at a subway station. Paid him a little up front, promised more if he delivered them to the theater. That's another 20 points for us. Wednesday, around 2 in the afternoon, she walked out of rehearsal, sent the chauffeur away, then she headed for the subway, Broadway and 23rd. Threw on big sunglasses, wrapped a blue scarf around her head. Not a perfect disguise, but enough to blur the edges. She went downtown, got off around 3 at Bowery and Delancey. From a nearby post office, she sent a letter to Billy Jones over at the Daily News to make sure her kidnapping hits print the very next day. After that, she decided she checked into a small joint, Hotel Florence. Nothing fancy. That was the point. In a place like the New Grand, for example, she'd have risked running into someone who knew her. Here, she was just another nobody with a room key. She had a change of clothes with her. The maid packed it that morning. Didn't think twice about it. Apparently, Miss Price had a habit of bringing extra outfits to rehearsals, left over from some dinner party fiasco. You shrug lightly. Convenient habit if you're planning to escape. We did learn about that, and we did talk about it, in fact, the extra clothes. Somehow I forgot it later on when I said she didn't have a suitcase. But plus 30 points. I still think we've got the full points there. We picked that up when we talked to the maid about the extra clothes and all that. This is the Hotel Florence thing, though, so I guess we didn't think through that. I'll deduct another 3 points because this is, again, recapping that we got wrong about the Hotel Florence. I mean, it's it's certainly reasonable that she didn't want to go to a fancy place where she might be recognized, but you could say the other way around, that psychologically she goes where she knows. But and the kicker, Chief? The kicker is it worked. You let out a low, humorous chuckle. Billy Jones ran the story, splashed her name all over the front page. Just like that, Georgia Price is back where she thinks she belongs, center stage. You pause. I'll bet tonight she'll walk into that theater like nothing ever happened. Chin up, spotlight waiting. Fairy Queen Titania taking her bow before the curtains even up. Add up your points, write them down if you've got at least 70 points. Okay, so what have we got? We've got 17, 20, 20, 27. So 67, 77, 84. 67, 77, 84. If you've got at least 70 points, which we do, we get +1 analytical. And if you've got at least 85, +1 brilliant. Oh my God, we just missed our brilliant. I mean, arguably, we did subtract 3 points, 3 points, maybe. All right, because I'm just going to tweak this a little bit, because we penalized us twice for Hotel Florence, and Jonathan figured out Hotel Florence. So I think it's reasonable to say that we actually got 85 points. I'm still penalizing us a total of 5 points for me missing Hotel Florence. Jonathan gets the brilliant. It's true. Jonathan got the brilliant, not me. However, I'm gonna mark here, because this is our combined campaign log, that I'm gonna benefit from Jonathan's. I'm going to benefit from Jonathan and give ourselves +1 brilliant. But we all know it's only for Jonathan. The game doesn't end yet because you still have to attend the Poe dinner. This should say the day doesn't end yet. You still have to attend the Poe dinner. If you'd like to watch the movie Of Human Bondage for culture points, you can go to the local movie theater now. After that, go to the Epilogue 1 to attend the Poe dinner at 7 p.m. It is interesting that it didn't ask us who wrote the letter. Feels like that should have been asked, and we should get credit for that somewhere. If it's not, I don't know that it has to be in these questions, but surely somewhere in this game we should get some wonderful credits for figuring out who wrote, and we should have to answer the question, who wrote the first letter? If it doesn't, then I feel like we should get a whole bunch of reputation for that as an errata. And another +1 brilliant if we figure out who writes the letter. But maybe that question's coming later. So these are questions part 2 on day 2. Now, I think... So we're going to read the epilogue of the Poe dinner at 7 p.m., but I think we should go to that movie. I'm kind of curious to go to the movie because our rookie partner was so curious about it too, right? So we want to have that to talk to him about. And Jonathan is curious to hear from Anna what her thinking was about whether he was right about the Daily News stuff. I think Jonathan turned out to be right there. Let's go to Of Human Bondage at the Film Guild Theater before we go to the dinner. We'll just sort of unwind a little bit at the Film Guild Theater. It makes sense. It makes sense. Where is the Film Guild Theater? We looked it up and wrote it down, but it's easier to look it up again. The Film Guild Theater. Film Guild Cinema. I have been to one of the film guilds, but it post-dates this game, so I think I put a fictional one in here, or fictionally tweaked the name of this, but there is a real film guild in Manhattan. 65588. Film Guild Cinema. It's on the main floor, APT main floor. That's a little weird. I wonder. Well, it feels like a bug in my code. It shouldn't say apartment main floor. It should just say main floor. I feel like that's a bug that snuck back in. Jesse. Apartment main floor. The word APT should not be in there when it's reporting something that's not a numeric apartment number. After the movie ends, you tip your hat to the board attendant who sits hunched on a stool reading his horror magazine. There's a big poster for Of Human Bondage at the entrance of the picture house. You look back and stare at it one more time before you leave. Let's just take a look at that to set the tone. Leslie Howard in Of Human Bondage, W. Somerset Maugham's world-famous novel with Betty Davis, Francis D. K. Johnson, and Reginald Denny. RKO Theater. Of Human Bondage. Okay, I'm confusing it with the cubes. Betty Davis as the femme fatale? Well, you weren't convinced. She's a knockout for sure, but too annoying for your taste. You like the guy, though, Leslie Howard. The director has given many subtle touches to his scenes. Like those staccato bits of music to emphasize his limp. Sounded like this poor sod was always aware of his affliction. All in all, it was quite a standard story. Chump falls for a girl and thinks she'll bring him happiness, and all he gets is lies, cheating, and misery. Sounds about right. Take 2 culture boxes. This detective is pretty jaded. Okay, 2 culture boxes for going to the theater. We got a lot of culture this case, which makes sense. When you're playing Anna's cases, you're going to get some culture. Anna says, my reasoning was the same, similar to Jonathan, but now I've heard Jesse's reasoning. I think I'll modify that lead. You could leave it. I'm not complaining about that lead. Sometimes the players got to debate. There's something, like it's fun when there's psychology. This is maybe not a right answer, but a psychological thing. I'm not sure you need to change that. That's up to you, but it's a tiny little thing, so getting it wrong is not heartbreaking. Maybe you could say in the solution something more, instead of him saying she's at the Hotel Florence, you could say something like, I think she's at the Hotel Florence, but she could also be at the Hotel Grand, and here's why I think. Jesse, what camp do you fall into from my previous question? And I'm reading this here. It's an interesting psychological question. Can you use a movie to calm down before some up-and-coming stressful event, or do you just feel distracted from the film? Yeah, I would feel pretty distracted trying to watch a movie while I was thinking about other things. But on the other hand, if that's what you're asking. On the other hand, I frequently go with my friends to like a double feature, and it's a movie that I'm not interested in, and I just zone out for the movie. When I go to the movies now, I put my earplugs in, like my mother. The loud sounds bother me. So if it's a loud, especially if it's a horror movie, if it's a horror movie, the sounds are what disturb me the most. So I have earplugs that I take to the theater. If it's a horror movie, I'll put those in. You put the plugs in, you'll be surprised at how much it decreases the stress of the loud sounds from a horror movie. I can watch almost any horror movie if I've got the earplugs. And then I just zone out. Sometimes I close my eyes during one of these double features and just take a little nap in the theater. I just like being in the dark with my candy and popcorn and soda. That's like 90% of being at the movie. I don't mind going to see the bad movie. If I was too excited, wanted to kill some time, might watch a movie. Yeah, I was thinking our character was using this as a distraction before his Poe dinner. The loud sound triggers much of the jump scares. Yeah, you don't realize how much of the visceral fear of a horror movie is the sound, are the loud sounds. You use earplugs, all of a sudden the horror movies are much, much less intense. All right, it's time for us to go to the Poe dinner. Here we go. Epilogue 1. I'm going to turn away from... Did it just get darker again? Does that happen? Like sometimes it feels like it gets darker in here. I don't know if it's my imagination. Okay, let me see if Epilogue 1 is on the next page. No, that's weird. I find that a little disconcerting that if we here and it says go to Epilogue 1, if I just go to the next page, I get questions 3. That's not what we want, but that's okay. We can get around that here. Epilogue 1. Okay, don't read this table of contents. Read only after you answered and scored questions part 1, the collector, and it's Saturday and you've finished for the day. Here we go. Oh, and it says you can use the printed version now. Okay, good. We're going back to our printed version. Epilogue 1, 206. Here we go. 7 p.m. January 19, Saturday, Hotel Lafayette. Your report worked its magic, and the chief gave you a team to catch the thief and the collector, her client, and the thief and the collector, her client, who will try to snatch the manuscript of the Sphinx. A few men went to Gant's apartment to pick him up as well. You gave them strict instructions to search his study and grab any documents that seemed relevant, especially letters that a so-called collector signed. You sincerely hope they won't mess it up, but you couldn't go with them. You have a more important job here at the Poe dinner. Luck is on your side, it seems, because 2 more guests canceled this morning, so you and another cop, Martin Mooney, are sitting at one of the tables. The one nearest the little podium where the manuscript is displayed. Strictly in disguise, of course. You had to abandon your principles and rent a tuxedo for the evening. Love it. This is like a movie. There are other cops all over the Lafayette, of course. They guard every possible exit of the hotel in case you two inside the banquet hall aren't able to catch Tilly and Miss Perry in time. That's good. That's a good police procedural work. Miss Murphy, who checked the arriving guests on her list, pointed out Miss Perry for you earlier. She's behaving very nonchalantly, smiling at the other guests at her table like she wasn't someone who ordered a theft that would take place in the next hour. But you know better. And you'll be the one to grab her. Love it. Mooney will catch Tilly as soon as she lifts the manuscript. You spotted the dancer earlier among the waiters and waitresses. She looks quite different now. No wig or overdone makeup, and a lot more clothes, of course. But her eyes are the same. Bright blue. You pointed her out to Mooney as soon as you spotted her, and you're very careful not to look her way in case she might recognize you, although after you shaved and put on this ridiculous tuxedo, you wouldn't even recognize yourself in the mirror. Okay, it's starting now. Here you go. Love it. The speeches start, so they dim the lights in the banquet hall and shine reflectors on the speakers on the big podium. The attention shifts away from the manuscript. The waiters and waitresses are continuing to walk among the tables to pour champagne or change the glasses. This would be the perfect opportunity to steal the short story. And Tilly, as if accidentally, slows down a bit, then stops in front of the little podium at the corner. Her back is to the glass top, which she lifts slowly and carefully behind herself. Mooney and you only peer at her from the corner of your eyes, but the moment she takes the manuscript and tucks it into her jacket, Mooney springs up and catches her. She's so surprised she doesn't even try to run. Mooney ushers her out of the room. Everything happened so quickly, most of the guests didn't even notice anything, but one of them did, of course. And here she goes. Miss Perry stands up, smiles at her neighbors, and excuses herself like someone who just wants to use the ladies' room for a moment. You follow her out, and as soon as she enters the entrance hall, you step in front of her. Miss Elizabeth Frances Perry. She raises her eyebrows when you say her whole name, but doesn't say a word. I'm Detective Lucas from the NYPD, and you're under arrest for grand theft of the manuscript of the Sphinx. She looks at you with sudden hatred in her eyes, but it's already gone when two of your colleagues join you to lead her away. Suddenly, she acts like a confused lady and starts complaining because of this shocking and totally unfounded accusation. I'm sorry, Detective. Surely there's a mistake here. I can't imagine what you're talking about. Just look at me. Do I really look like a criminal to you? I'm only a guest at this prestigious dinner. Criminals come in all shapes and sizes, Miss Perry. I learned that a long time ago. So don't try and play this innocent lady act with me. I'm not buying it. She straightens her back. Her voice is totally different when she says, I would like to call my lawyer. Of course, Miss Perry, you can call whoever you want. You know that everyone gets one free call in jail, right? You grin widely when they take her away. And here she is, our collector, Elizabeth Frances Perry. Got her. End of part 1 of case 3. The game doesn't end yet because you still want to tell the kid about everything that happened at the dinner. When you're ready to continue, go to the beginning of day 4. Pretty amazing. I love how that scene was described. I think my favorite part actually is just this little line here. It's starting now. Here you go. Like, there's something about that just feels so right. It's like all of this has come together. Everything's been put into the right place. And you're like, they're there for the show and you're there for this show. You're like, here we go. Let's watch it run. Let's run it forward. It's like you're watching a different performance and a nice classic police procedural where there are different police officers doing their job well as an orchestrated group, rather than a lone detective doing everything. There's something very police procedural about that. I really like this whole scene. I might even, if I was the editor of this novel, I would probably just be like, turn that dial up a little bit more. Turn that police procedural. One of the hallmarks of a police procedural is it's a group effort. It's like the well-oiled machine of the police. And it might be nice to even double down on that for that scene and be like, you know, be more specific about the other cops. Like describe the two cops who are at this door, the two cops who are pretending to be in the wait staff in the kitchen in case she makes a run for there, the guy that's the detective who's pretending to be the doorman, like set it up as this sort of classic sting operation where each of the different police officers are doing their different job. But actually it was handled really well here about how he's saying this guy's gonna arrest Tilly and these guys are at the door in case they get past them. Really nice. Really, really, really nice. And just this whole scene is described like a movie scene. Like our guy is dressed up in a tuxedo. It's like a finale of a movie. This is the scene at the end of this movie where it's sort of like the big finale scene. You got the guy dressed up in the tuxedo. You got this big event that they're at. Pretty cool. You get your villain trying to make an escape. Really lovely. Really, really, really lovely. She's trying to just waltz out. I love how she's so calm. She's just gonna get up and go to the lady room. She takes some time to smile and wave at the other people at her table. She thinks she's gonna get out, and we just walk right over to her and cuff her. Pretty great. Pretty great. Pretty pitch perfect ending here. End of day 3. John says, yep, really good scene. Congrats to our team, successful police operation. Anna says, great teamwork. All right, that was very satisfying. But where can this case possibly go now? How is it possible that there's more to this case? I wonder if Georgia's going to turn up dead. That's what I wonder. It feels like the case is over. Feels like we've wrapped up our 2 tracks of our 2 case. They both merged together at the end of the 3rd day, which itself is a pretty amazing magic trick because it felt like we had 2 solid full cases, Georgia and this collector, and we alternated day 1, day 2, and it feels like they both came together. The pacing of this case has been amazing. And it feels like we're ready to call it quits. We're going to meet with our rookie and say, everything's good. I'm going to take my vacation days now. What's going to happen? John says, yep, it doesn't look good for Georgia, although I'm also now a little worried. Could some surprise thing happen to the rookie to put him back in danger? Huh. Or is it going to be a totally different thing? Or maybe Anna is tricking us that this isn't a 5-day case and it's really over now. This would be a great case if it ended right here. It does not, I don't feel like we need more. This would be a super satisfying 3-day case. And I'm not complaining. I'm very happy for it to go deeper. All right, so we played for 4 hours today. Amazing session. Probably my favorite session of the four sessions we've played so far. My favorite day, but they've all been great in their own way. So we're going to stop here, and we will pick up day 4 at the hospital, filling in the rookie about the excitement from today. We will pick that up tomorrow evening at 10 p.m. Is that right? And by tomorrow evening, I mean today, Tuesday evening at 10. Jonathan, you're on board. Anna, you're on board. Anyone else in the channel, feel free to speak up. If tomorrow is inconvenient, we could skip a day. No. Jonathan Warner says, sounds good. Anna says, yes, see you tomorrow. Okay. Thank you for joining me. Quite a special experience. I can't wait to see what happens next.